Dear colleagues, we'd like to start now. I would like to take this opportunity to inform the colleagues that there is only one contested election. The candidates for President and Treasurer were elected unopposed. Thank you very much. However, we have 5 candidates for 4 posts as vice presidents. The 3 who received the most votes will serve for 3 years until the end of the 2020 annual session. And the 4th will serve for 2 years until the end of the 2019 annual session. The ballot will take place tomorrow morning in the round conference hall from 8:30 to 11 a.m. A note has been distributed with details of how to vote. Early voting for those who have to leave today is open in the table office until 6 p.m. The administrative note also explains the procedure for early voting. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to adopt the agenda for this meeting, which is as circulated. The agenda is adopted. Thank you. After the report of Dr. Hedi Frey, please note that we will consider supplementary item number 4. I will now ask the Special Representative on Gender Issues, Dr. Hedi Frey, to present her report. Hedi Frey, the floor is yours.
I guess I think so, no? Okay, can you all hear me? Do you all wish to hear me? Each year, as you know, the gender representative gives a report, but we choose a theme on which to report. In 2016, which was last year, the theme was looking at the impact of how gender is impacted, or how women and girls are treated when they are migrants and refugees. And as a result, I want to build on that theme, because it's one thing to look at the challenges that women and girls face as they are traveling and finding a way to be a migrant or a refugee. The journey, we know, is perilous, and we talked about that last year. But when you get to a host country, I think the problems are even greater, because integration is going to be extremely important. And integration of migrants and refugees present very different challenges for men and boys and for women and girls. But as I want to deal with women and girls today, because many of them need for us to look at their unique needs of men and boys and women and girls and build specific program streams to deal with both gender, so that they can be able to integrate. We've all talked a lot about, I'm going to talk about the immediate and medium-term integration issues, and I won't talk about long-term, because I think, you know, Alain Neri spoke very, very well about the fact that to deal with the long-term issues of the hordes of people that are migrating for various reasons, whether it's conflict, whether it's climate change, whether it's poverty, that we need to deal with that in a long term, and we need to start talking about that now. But this is not where I'm going to speak about it. But there are a lot that we can do to ensure that people stay at home, dealing with conflict, dealing with climate change, helping them to get food, to be able to live in their countries, and to look at the issues of poverty. But I wanted to talk about integration, because integration is what will create the kind of successful communities that we want to look for. It has to be a priority, or else what we're going to have is migrants living at margins of society who are actually unable to fit into the society at all. So you can provide food and shelter and other things, but when you ostracize migrants away from the mainstream host society, what you do is you create groups and pockets of people within your countries who are frustrated, who are angry, who feel left out, and of course, because of the marginalization, you have instability because they will react with discord, there will be panic, there will be frustration, and there will be security problems within countries if you don't deal with seeing integration as a stabilizer. If you want to have peaceful host countries and you want to be able to have immigrants and migrants within your border, then you need to stop seeing them as a problem and start looking at them as a benefit to your society. The more that they integrate, the more that they're able to work and produce and contribute to the economic development of the country, to the social development of the country, and to the cultural development of the country, then the stronger the country is and the more stable and secure the populations are. Now, women and girls have very different problems and different needs, and integration programs need to be sensitive to the needs that they have. The first one I wanted to talk quickly about is social integration. And in social integration, the first thing we have to think about is the legal status of migrants and refugees. If they do not have legal status in a country, then they are unable to have access to housing, to healthcare, to protection, to family reunification, and to language training, which is essential if you're going to have good integration. And I think when we want to look at what happens in certain countries, Sweden comes to mind because they have shown extremely good social integration. Because when migrants and refugees come to Sweden, they participate in the same way legally in terms of status in accessing the social programs, housing and health and childcare, etc., so that they can be able to work and produce and become members of the society. Many women and girls, for instance, or women, when they arrive in a country, 39% of women have dependent children. 17% of men have dependent children. So we know that the issue of women and children and stable family lives are really important. And if the children aren't integrated into society easily, this is where children become very unhappy, they feel ostracized, and the next thing is this is where they are very good victims or very good risk for more likely to be radicalized in that country because the host country has not treated them very well. So I want to talk about some things that are done in terms of integration. We see that in some countries, Canada, for instance, is one in which we integrate migrants and refugees within communities housing not just migrants and refugees, but the rest of society. That way they integrate easily, they talk to the local people, they talk to the communities, their language gets better, and they know how to live within the new culture in which they are. And that is going to be very, very important if we want to talk about stability in our societies. And I just wanted to say that a good thing in Canada, it's a good example I wanted to bring to the front, is that we have private sponsorship. I talked about it yesterday. You have communities and churches who sponsor refugees. They will sponsor a family. What that does is because they're sponsoring the family lives in that community with them. They take them to church. They take them to school. They take them to little barbecues. And so the community integrates much faster. And if women and girls have access to good education and to skills and training, they can begin to work and they can begin to produce and to be a benefit to society. So I think it's really important to do that, but very important as well is to look at practical things like legislation that protects refugees and migrants from hate and from discrimination. And the state has to show that it will not discriminate. The state has to show and set an example and prohibit others from doing so. Because once again, if you have people ostracized in societies, again, those societies become very unstable and radicalization will occur and there would be an ostracization, marginalization of people living in the countries. And so I think it's very important to look at that. There are good examples of some countries in the OSCE EPA that actually get immigrants to go to the school and talk about what they are about, their culture, their real lives, and their real experiences, so that young people get exposed to the reality of what a migrant's life is about and to the difference in a culture, and are not so afraid, because it is the fear of others that creates the problem. And if we ensure that others are benefit to our society and give them the opportunities and the tools through legislation, through good programs that they need to be able to integrate, not just integrate for their sake, but integrate for the host country's sake, because then they become productive members of society. And I think that that's very important. I think economic integration is a very important one I wanted to quickly touch on, because we know that women face extraordinary barriers to entering the labor market. The European Commission has actually, in its 2015 report, said that there are 66% of women employed in some of their host nations, but only 45% of the third-party migrants are employed. So once again, you have unemployment. Unemployment breeds dependency on a state to help to support. In the UK in 2007, for instance, they found that 23% more men who were migrants were employed than women. So there was a big gap between women being employed and men being employed. And language is an important part of that. The ability for a newcomer in a country to be able to learn the language of the country makes them integrate, gets them into the job market, gets them into a place where they can actually contribute more easily. As I said, Sweden has a very good program in which we see that women, and many of these women are single with their children, if they can get childcare, and they do have access to universal childcare in Sweden, like the host country women, and therefore these women can go and study language, they can go and get skills and training, they can go and get education. So once again, they become productive members of society. I just wanted to talk about job search and linking immigrants and migrants with host communities, because many women who have been sexually exploited during their migrant experience, they are often shunned by their own culture. And so they need to be able to have people from the host culture that they can talk to and tell their problems and be able to rehabilitate and be able to heal from the trauma of having been sexually exploited and raped along the journey, as we talked about last year. And so we need to look at that shunning and make sure that integration occurs with people who may come from the culture that they came from, but has been in the country long enough that they can assist them into integrating, and they can be people that you can speak to. We know that a lot of women who are migrants live in abusive situations in their home because they're afraid to go and speak out as well, because they don't know how to speak out. Now, there's a program I know that in some countries, and we in Canada adopted it from Israel, which had a very successful program for refugees and immigrants. And what happens is that the women who come, they are given training in very basic literacy skills. So when their children go to school, they can help them when they come home in the evenings. They can engage with the school. And these children can actually meld into the school programs much more easily. It also has an added benefit of having these women getting a certain amount of training that they may never have and becoming leaders in their community in terms of literacy and numeracy and helping their children to do well at school. And so I just wanted to say that the important thing is to look at migrants and refugees who are there in the medium and in the short term and integrate them into society so that they can become productive members economically and socially, and in fact become a benefit. In countries that do integration well, the migrants and refugees are really important parts of creating productivity. You also have people from another part of the world who have the language and the cultural experiences from whence they came, and so the country that's hosting them have the opportunity actually to be able to trade with these countries in a culturally sensitive manner. So it's a distinct advantage. And in Canada, we call this that migrants and refugees, when they're fully integrated, become weapons of mass inclusion. And they make their country stronger, and they are able to trade, and they are able to participate and be competitive in what is now a global market. We're trading with countries we've never traded before, and therefore we need to have people within our countries who understand how to do that well. well, and it gives us an advantage. And so I just want to remind you of that. I could comment, but my report is out there. It's quite a thick report, and there are lots of graphs and statistics that I want you to look at. But I just wanted to say that, in fact, the OSCE itself has not done very well in terms of moving women into senior management positions. And again, we've seen that some of the field workers, we do not have very many women represented there. And in terms of the vice president, there are 8 vice presidents here at the OSCE-PA, and currently we only have 1 female vice president. That's Isabel Santos. Of course, our president is female, but we still have this majority of men. And so I am hoping we did very well last year when women applied to run. I want you to think of applying to run, because it's a balance of men and women on our executives that give us the ability to make very, very good decisions. So I want to say one last thing. Diversity is a strength. It can be a strength and not a threat. Thank you very much.
Dear Hedy, thank you very much for this important report. We are always very glad when we can listen to you, and we very much appreciate your work that you do for the gender report, and this time also including the question of migration and women's issues. Dear colleagues, since our next agenda item is the consideration of the supplementary item number 4, promoting gender inclusive and responsive mediation, presented by Dr. Fry, I propose that any comments regarding Dr. Fry's report be made during the debate. We will now begin consideration of supplementary item number 4, promoting gender inclusive and responsive mediation. Hedy Fry, I'd ask you to present the supplementary item.
Chair, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address the supplementary item on promoting gender inclusive and responsive mediation. You know that the United Nations has been pushing 1325, which talks about engaging women from the very beginning of a pre-conflict cycle to mediate so that it may not become an actual conflict, and also at the same time to help them through all of the negotiations, etc., so that at the end one not only prevents, but one is able to have good decisions in terms of rebuilding after a conflict. And women have a real role to play in this because they understand what other women face in challenges, and they nearly always understand what their sons and husbands have faced in it too. So women are an important part of the cycle. And so this is about that. I want to say this item was drafted in collaboration with Mr. Ilka Canova, the OSCE-PA's Special Representative on Mediation, and benefits from our respective expertise helped us to draft something that would draw greater attention to a very important issue, and that is the underrepresentation of women in the formal peace process. We know that mediation is widely recognized as one of the most effective means of preventing, managing, and resolving conflict, and that the OSCE has a long history of successfully engaging in mediation activities. We also know that women play a vital role in preventing conflict and helping to forge lasting peace, and yet women's voices remain largely absent from mediation and negotiation. According to UN Women, between 1992 and 2011, women made up only 2.4% of chief mediators and 9% of negotiators in peace processes. And so how can peace agreements adequately take gender perspectives into consideration when the institutional framework itself is not designed to allow for women to have a full and meaningful role? So this item calls on OSCE participating states not only to increase the number of women in mediation efforts by removing the barriers to their participation, it also calls on participating states and OSCE personnel to ensure that opportunities exist for women to hold meaningful roles as decision makers in mediation processes, including as lead negotiators. Far too often, the role of women in the prevention and resolution of conflict is focused on protection of women. Well, women are not just victims. They do have a lot of skills to be able to offer. So this calls on the OSCE participating states to ensure that women are recognized as important actors, not just victims. Sustainable peace needs women's leadership and representations at all levels of decision-making, and so it is why this SI calls for improved data collection on how women representation in mediation processes are going in each nation state. And lastly, it's why we're asking the Austrian OSCE chairmanship to publish a concrete action plan for enhancing gender-inclusive mediation going forward. The time has come for this issue to be prioritized in the OSCE. I kindly ask you to support this SI because it's time we stop giving lip service to what we intend to do with gender equality and get on with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, the debate now is open. I call the first speaker from our colleague from Finland, Ms. Paloniemi.
Madam President, dear colleagues, firstly I want to thank Mrs. Fry for her excellent work with this specific item, as well as for her tireless and invaluable contribution in advancing gender equality within the OSCE. I'm fully in favor of giving a green light to this supplementary item. Embracing gender equality in all spheres of life is a contemporary way of thinking today. Thus, gender inclusiveness should be a natural and integral element also in mediation, including in the OSCE. This is not a new topic for us. The international community has recognized the importance of gender inclusiveness in mediation since years, of which the UN's landmark resolution at 1325 on women, peace and security is a very concrete example. Yet, for some reason, progress in bringing the commitments into practice has been rather slow. In order to bridge the gap between words and practice, it is important to step up our efforts. Women's participation in peace negotiations is important because it's a matter of equality. However, it has a practical side too. By embracing gender inclusiveness in mediation, we are able to bring a perspective of both genders into the peace process, contribute to a more comprehensive peace agreement, and accordingly strengthen the prospects for sustainable peace. Additionally, we need to address the root causes of the conflicts more forcefully. Embracing gender equality contributes to conflict prevention as such. More actions are indeed needed with this regard. As an example, let me mention women's land rights, which are intertwined with food security. Women have a large role in developing and improving agriculture in practice and accordingly in contributing positively to food security if women's rights and participation in general are being taken into account. It is clear that empowering women by ensuring that women's rights are respected and implemented contributes to sustainable stability and peace. Furthermore, it lays fruitful foundations for women's participation more widely, also in mediation. Dear colleagues, we should also seek new ways to redouble our efforts in promoting gender mainstreaming in the Assembly. Women parliamentarians can do more together, regardless of the party views which may differ. Let me give you a few examples from Finland that could serve as a food for thought in this respect. In Finland, a certain part of the public party funding is distributed to the women's organizations of the parties by law. The women's organizations are free to use it as they wish. Finland is the only country in the world that has adopted this practice. Also, I want to mention a women's network which was created in 1991 in the Finnish Parliament. All the female members of the Finnish Parliament are members of it. The network serves as a discussion forum for political issues which affect women in particular, irrespective of party lines. The network acts to realize equality between men and women and to introduce female perspectives into legislative work. I wanted to bring this to your attention as I have in some of my previous interventions in the Assembly suggested suggested that we might create a similar women's network in the OSCE Assembly. By putting forward this proposal, I certainly would not like to undermine the participation of men, but I think that an all-female forum could be useful also here in the OSCE. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for this interesting input. The next speaker is from our colleague from Canada, Mr. Aldag. You have the floor.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Fry, for your presentation and report. The focus on migrant and refugee integration is very timely, and I fully agree about the importance of this issue for the migrants and refugees themselves, as well as our communities more broadly. We can't underestimate the importance of listening to the migrant and refugee women themselves. There is no one who knows better what is needed for integration than individuals who have integrated or are currently going through integration into a new society. This is such an important element to bring forward, as well as issues of sexual exploitation of migrant women and girls, which you also raised. I'd also like to speak about the statistics in the report concerning gender in the OSCE. It is disappointing to see the organization stagnating in terms of gender representation. We cannot accept that women continue to be more present in lower-level positions and underrepresented in management. In some areas, we are actually going backwards. For example, the report shows that the percentage of OSCE senior management that is female decreased by 7% since last year. While we celebrate our achievements with women in the role of OSCE PA president and treasurer, we cannot become apathetic. We must continue to put in place measures to ensure that everyone, regardless of gender, has access to positions of power in our institutions. Again, I thank you, Dr. Fry, for shining light on these important issues of gender representation at the OSCE and on gender mainstreaming and integration policy and programming in your report, and also for the supplementary item on promoting gender inclusive and responsive mediation, which I also support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is from our colleague from Sweden, Margareta Cederfelt. You have the floor.
Thanks, Madam President. And I would like to start to thank Dr. Fry for her report. Dr. Fry's reports are always very comprehensive and include a lot of important information, and so also this time. The importance to highlight the situation for the migrants, the women, female, and the children is very, very important. When we talk about migrants, it's easy to talk and say that the situation is the same for all of them. It isn't. It's different a lot, and I think that Dr. Fry have really highlighted that. When we are talking, for example, about women, migrants, we could look up on the labor market. It's not that easy for women who are refugees to find a job. Why? It might be culture, it might be lack of skills, but it may also be a lack of, for example, possibility for childcare. Lack of knowledge of the society, especially if the person, if the woman, have to sit back home. That's why it's so important with the civil society, and also that there are a social network around. And I think that we as politicians, we have a huge responsibility here to find out solutions, to make laws who fit not only migrants as a whole, also the women. And talking about the conflict circle, I find it very, very important. If we say, and we know that's like that women and children suffer most, then of course women should also be included in the whole circle of conflict. And the other aspect, that's it's there. We have said it for a lot of time, and it's that women are half of the population. So I think it shouldn't be any discussion about that. And that's also why I want to thank President Emeritus, Mr. Ilkka Kanerva from Finland, who have put a lot of efforts in including women in the conflict circle. And I do look forward to get more knowledge and more information about this, because I think there's really a key for the future to actually make a better future which include women at a higher level than we could see today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Sederfeld. And I give the floor to Mrs. Irina Gecht from Russia Federation.
Спасибо, уважаемые коллеги. На наш взгляд, проект резолюции госпожи Фрай достаточно тенденциозен и требует серьезной доработки. Не возражая в принципе против тезиса об учете гендерного фактора в деятельности ОБСЕ, выступаем против смешивания мандатов различных организаций и руководящих органов соответствующих организаций, что приводит к необоснованному дублированию работы и создает угрозу политизации дискуссии. Упоминаемая в пункте 3 преамбулы проекта резолюция Совета Безопасности 1325 «Женщины, мир и безопасность» представляет собой дорожную карту в целях повышения роли женщин в предотвращении и урегулировании конфликтов, постконфликтном восстановлении, а также защиты женщин в ходе вооруженных конфликтов. Выполнение государствами-членами ООН резолюции способствует учету и отстаиванию интересов женщин в условиях конфликта, появлению в полевых миссиях ООН экспертов по гендерным вопросам, увеличению числа женщин, участвующих в мирных переговорах и выборных процессах. В этой связи не можем согласиться с отстаиваемым автором тезисом, что проблематика женщины, мира и безопасности имеет универсальный охват и должна использоваться в качестве ориентира для улучшения положения женщин во всех сферах жизни и повсеместно, а не только в ситуациях вооруженного конфликта или сразу после него. Считаем важным подчеркнуть, что залогом эффективности действующей системы механизмов, занимающихся осуществлением резолюции ООН, является улучшение координации в их работе, а также подотчетности, а не учреждение новых бюрократических, пусть и неофициальных процедур. В ходе обсуждения тематики «Женщины, мир и безопасность» мы неоднократно говорили о том, что женщины не должны восприниматься в ходе вооруженных конфликтов только как жертвы. Это дискриминационный подход. Важной предпосылкой преодоления насилия в отношении женщин в таких ситуациях является полноправное участие самих женщин в политической жизни и превентивной дипломатии. При этом исходим из того, что в расчет должны приниматься и профессиональные качества будущих посредников. Пункт 9 следовало бы доработать. В нынешнем виде этот пункт необоснованно преувеличивает роль гендерного фактора в посредничестве, утверждая, что ограничение участия женщин в посредничестве может приводить к увеличению риска возобновления конфликтов, что вовсе не является очевидным. Пункт 12 постановляющей части должен быть адресован исключительно государствам-участникам ОБСЕ, но никак не представителям и тем более не сотрудникам ОБСЕ. Вызывают вопросы и призыв к выполнению обязательств, касающихся возможных действий на национальном или региональном уровне, в таких областях, как обеспечение финансирования продвижения женщин, выполнение национальных планов по вопросам женщин, мира и безопасности, а также разработка планов действий по усилению гендерно-инклюзивного посредничества. Пункты 14, 16 и 18, содержащие неоднозначные, ничем не подтвержденные тезисы, включая необходимость продвижения некого гендерного мейнстрима. Данная концепция не является общепризнанной во всех государствах-участниках ОБСЕ. Не разделяем изложенную в пункте 17 высокую оценку доклада Института ОБСЕ по инклюзивной безопасности, которую считаем завышенной. Предложили бы сформулировать этот пункт в нейтральном ключе. По-прежнему считаем разработку так называемых национальных планов действий по выполнению резолюции Совета Безопасности ООН, а также принятие на себя финансовых обязательств исключительно добровольными инициативами. Считаем, что в первую очередь национальные планы следует реализовывать тем государствам, которые находятся в состоянии вооруженного конфликта или постконфликтного восстановления. В конечном итоге это не самоцель, важен результат. Можно отметить, что в России такого плана нет, однако в стране создаются необходимые условия для полного раскрытия потенциала женщин, что позволило привлечь в политику немало высокопрофессиональных женщин. Исходим из того, что если какие-либо другие страны хотят разрабатывать подобные национальные планы, а также вносить свой вклад в финансовое обеспечение разработки и продвижения планов действий по усилению гендерного посредничества, то это, безусловно, их право, но не обязанность. Спасибо.
Thank you, Mrs. Gecht. And now I give the floor to Mr. René Cormier.
Merci. Distingués collègues, je souhaite profiter à mon tour de l'occasion pour remercier Dr. Fry d'avoir parrainé ce point supplémentaire. Comme l'avait déclaré l'ancien secrétaire général de l'ONU, Ban Ki-moon, et je cite, « En omettant d'inclure les femmes et les filles dans les processus d'établissement et de consolidation de la paix, nous ne laissons pas seulement tomber les femmes et les filles, mais également le monde. » La participation limitée des femmes dans la médiation et les autres processus de paix est un enjeu sous-estimé dont les conséquences sont profondes. Le point additionnel fait référence au corpus croissant de recherche qui démontre que la pleine participation des femmes au processus d'établissement de la paix peut renforcer le caractère légitime de ceux-ci, que les points de vue des femmes permettent de jeter un nouvel éclairage sur les causes et les conséquences d'un conflit, et que les accords de paix qui répondent aux besoins particuliers des femmes et des filles, des hommes et des garçons, contribuent à une paix durable. Pourtant, comme le reconnaît le point supplémentaire, le niveau actuel de participation des femmes à la médiation et aux négociations demeure lamentablement bas. Distingués collègues, nous devons nous demander pourquoi cette situation est encore la même et comment l'OSCE peut favoriser la pleine participation des femmes aux efforts de médiation et de négociation. Les États participants et les institutions de l'OSCE doivent prendre les mesures qui s'imposent pour favoriser la participation égale et efficace des femmes au processus de paix. Comme le souligne le point additionnel, il ne s'agit pas simplement d'ajouter davantage des femmes aux structures de prévention et de résolution de conflits, mais d'accroître leur influence dans les processus décisionnels. Ce qu'il faut maintenant, distingués collègues, ce sont des actions concrètes et concertées pour améliorer la situation. Je suis donc fier d'appuyer ce point additionnel et du même coup d'inciter les États participants et le personnel de l'OSCE à faire de même. Merci de votre attention.
Merci, Mr. Cormier. I give the floor to Mrs. Maria Teleretti.
Madame la Présidente, la présence et la participation des femmes à la position ou au centre des décisions sont limitées. Nous connaissons ça. Nous devons reconsidérer l'essence de la représentation substantielle et la politique de la présence des femmes et poser des questions. Par exemple, à qui les représentantes sont-ils responsables? Quelle est l'efficacité de la présentation? Pour pouvoir répondre aux questions ci-dessous, nous pouvons comprendre que l'exclusion des femmes est réalisée par plusieurs niveaux de décision dominés par les hommes. Pour proposer des mesures concrètes pour promouvoir la participation des femmes, nous devrons examiner des raisons pour lesquelles les femmes sont en exil et les facteurs qui déterminent les faibles participations multiples et diversifiées. Facteurs culturels, facteurs socio-économiques et facteurs politiques. Finalement, pour proposer quelques mesures, nous devons, par exemple, avoir une évolution de l'impact sur les sexes, sur les genders, des systèmes de quotas existants visant à une grande efficacité, campagne de sensibilisation pour prévenir et combattre le sexisme dans la vie politique, éliminer les stéréotypes sexistes dans les discours publics et pendant les élections. Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Mrs. Teleretti. This concludes the debate. Debate is closed now. Mrs. Hedy Fry, do you want to express your opinion and respond to the questions raised here?
You know, Madam Chair, I cannot resist being asked to comment on stuff. So I just wanted to say I want to thank everybody who supported this SI, and I find it very interesting the reasons that the Russian friend did not see fit to support this, because I think she talks very much about the full potential of women in everything. Well, this is what this is asking for women to be involved in this important part of the life of a country, which is, and of the OSCE, which is to look at mediation, conflict prevention, post-conflict resolution. Those kinds of things are really very important for women. You cannot say you want women to use their full potential and then deny them the ability to do something in one sphere. You either think you want them to achieve their full potential or you don't. I also felt that, that her comment that women are not victims, I agree with her completely. That's a very important comment, because I did say in my report that women should not be seen as victims. Women have a great deal to offer, and that therefore they should be seen as partners in moving forward a gender economic, socially, politically, and in every manner within their societies. And so I just thought that it was an important comment to make, and when I hear what she said later on, I'm hoping that she is actually telling me that she supports the SI, because she agrees with many pieces of empowering women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hedy Fry. We will now vote on supplementary item number 4, paragraph by paragraph, and on the 6 amendments tabled to it. I remind members that under Rule 22 of the Rules of Procedure, the only members who may speak are the mover of the amendment or another member in favor, one member opposed, and the principal sponsor of the supplementary item, in this case, Dr. Fry. Speeches on amendments will be limited to 1 minute. Okay? We will now vote the paragraphs 1 to 5 of the supplementary item. Any objections in this method? No. Votes in favor, paragraphs?
No, if there's no objection, we just move to...
Yes, we are moving to... No, we are voting paragraph...
No objections.
Okay, okay. So we are moving now to the amendments. Amendment number 1, to amend paragraph 6, I call Mr. Dobre to move present this amendment.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. We consider necessary to add the reference to the ministerial decision on promoting equal opportunity for women in the economic sphere, in order to highlight the fact that economic empowerment of women is an essential condition for fighting poverty, ensuring sustainable development, peace and security, and for encouraging women in assuming a role in mediation processes. Thank you.
Wish anyone to speak against this amendment? No? We move to vote. This, please, Dr. Fry, your opinion?
Thank you, Isabel. I want to thank my colleague Victor, because I accept this amendment. It strengthens the language much better. Thank you for reminding us of the OSCE commitments.
Now, yes, we can vote. Vote in favor, please raise your cards. Somebody is counting. I think it's almost unanimous. But. Votes against? Do you want to vote against? No. Abstentions? No. Okay. Amendment number 1 was adopted. Now we will vote paragraph 6. Any objections? No. We will now vote the paragraph 7 of the supplementary item. Any objections? No. We now come to amendment number 2 to add a new paragraph after paragraph 7. I call Mr. Dobre to move the amendment.
Thank you. We consider essential to underscore the correlation between conflict and poverty, especially because it leads to increasing the development discrepancies among OCCE areas, and to remind the fact that poverty might be one of the causes of conflict escalation and re-escalation. This amendment is needed in the context of the current resolution in order to underline that one of the means to combat poverty and to reduce conflict risk is the economic empowerment of women.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Dr. Fry, your opinion, please.
Thank you. I again want to thank my colleague Victor for bringing this forward. There is one thing, if I could make a friendly oral amendment, Victor, I would prefer the word challenges instead of the word threat. Because threat can be misinterpreted. I think it's a real challenge.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now we have conditions to vote this amendment as amended by this oral amendment. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. It's clear. Those who vote against? No. Abstentions? No. The amendment is adopted. We will now vote on paragraph 8 to 13 of the supplementary item. Any objections? No. Paragraphs 8 to 13 are agreed to. We will now come to amendment number 3 to add a new paragraph after paragraph 13. I call again Mr. Dobre to move this amendment.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair, and thank you of all which sponsoring this amendment from our colleagues, but I discuss with Mrs. Fry, and I retire this amendment. Maybe we shall make a resolution at one of our next session. Thank you very much.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Dr. Fry, your opinion.
So thank you. I want to thank my colleague for withdrawing the amendment. I understood what the amendment meant, and I think there is a different place to bring that kind of amendment forward, perhaps next year, Victor. Thanks.
The amendment is withdrawn. Now we will come to amendment number 4 to add another new paragraph after paragraph 13. I call Mr. Dobre to move the amendment.
Thank you. We consider this amendment important in order to emphasize that to help women to feel empowered and emancipated, that top-down efforts should be doubled by bottom-up processes conducted by the local and regional authorities, who know best how to tailor this measure according to the contextual circumstances. This mention is also very important because women empowerment is essential for emboldening women's participation to conflict prevention and mediation. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Dr. Fry, your opinion, please.
Again, I want to thank Victor. I think it's a very good amendment, except I wondered if I could propose an oral amendment and ask him to remove the word emancipation and end the sentence at empowerment. Emancipation has too many other connotations to it that I think that shouldn't refer at this point in time to women's position in our society.
I agree.
Thank you.
Now we shall vote this amendment as amended. The word emancipation will be substituted in the text of the amendment for the word empowerment. Those who want to vote in favor of this amendment number 4, please raise your cards. Those who wish to vote against, votes against, votes against. 2. Abstentions? No, 1. 1 there, Russia Federation. Okay. The amendment number 4 was adopted. We will now move to vote on paragraphs 14 to 17 of the supplementary item. Any objections? No. We now come to amendment number 5 to delete paragraph 18. I call Mr. Turov from Russia Federation to move the amendment.
Уважаемая председательствующая, за Турова доложит Федяев. Мы считаем, что нужно удалить, поскольку предложение о расширении мандата специального представителя по посредничеству по ОБСЕ в части, касающейся проведения в жизнь так называемого гендерного мейнстриминга, считаем здесь неуместно. Спасибо.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Dr. Fry, your opinion?
I reject the amendment because I think it really removes the real intent of this supplementary item. And I have spoken to Mr. Canova, who actually is the OSCE Special Representative on Mediation, and he agrees with me. He feels that to remove this paragraph would really take away some of his ability to make the substantive changes that he needs to make, and so I do reject it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now vote amendment number 5. Those who want to vote in favor? Yes? That's fine. Okay. Those against? Abstentions? Twenty-nine votes in favor, 52 against, 3 abstention. The amendment is not adopted. Now we will move to vote on paragraph 19. Any objections? No. Thank you. We now come to amendment number 6 to delete paragraph 20. I call Mrs. Naruzova to move the amendment.
Госпожа Шантаж Гехт будет озвучивать поправку. Мы предлагаем исключить пункт 20, поскольку австрийское председательство еще действующее, и мы надеемся на конструктивное сотрудничество в этом направлении, но давать какие-то заключения и оценки считаем преждевременным. Поэтому просим поддержать и снять этот пункт.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Dr. Fry, your opinion, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I do not support this amendment because, similar to my arguments against Amendment 5, is that this amendment would remove a key operative paragraph from the resolution supporting the Austrian OSCE chairmanship's priority, which is to encourage women's participation as part of its focus on addressing violent conflict in the OSCE region, and requesting that in working towards implementing this goal, the chairmanship publishes a concrete action plan for enhancing gender-inclusive mediation. And I want to ask my colleagues to reject this amendment and to encourage the OSCE EPA chairmanship and institutions to take concrete steps and to take some action instead of just talking. Thank you.
We will now vote on amendment number 6. Those in favor, please raise your cards. Against, please raise your cards. Abstentions? 2, 3, 4. The result of this voting is votes in favor 23, votes against 62, abstentions 5. We will now vote the supplementary item as a whole, as amended. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Against, raise your cards, please. Abstentions? Raise your cards, please. Result of this voting: votes in favor 72, votes against 11, abstentions 3. Supplementary item 4 is agreed to. Thank you. Congratulations, Eddie Fry. Dr. Fry, our congratulations.
Before the oral debate.
But
just to give him the floor for before the oral debate.
But it's not. We voted. It's finished.
Yeah, but it's not about this.
No.
It's a different item.
Someone is asking the floor, Mr. Chiquillo from Spain, before the general debate. I don't know what is the purpose. I would like to understand. If someone can explain. Mr. Chiquillo.
Buenas tardes. Gracias, señora presidenta, por concederme la palabra para comunicar a todos los presentes que nos preocupa mucho el respeto a los derechos humanos y que no haya presos políticos en un rincón del mundo. Este mediodía ha sido liberado en Venezuela Leopoldo López. Creo que es un motivo de satisfacción y desde aquí quiero que todos reconozcamos con un aplauso a un luchador por la libertad como ha sido Leopoldo López en Venezuela.
Gracias. I will now open our general debate. I remind you that you can still add your names to the speakers list in the table office. I ask colleagues to indicate on the list what the main subject of their contribution will be. The list will be closed tomorrow morning. To be very clear, I underline tomorrow morning. The first one on the list is Mr. Ivan Brajovic, Speaker of the Parliament of Montenegro. You have the floor, please. Please, the time is limited, please.
Poštovane dame i gospodo, drage kolege, dozvolite da prije svega našim domaćinima čestitam na odličnoj organizaciji skupa i zahvalim na izuzetnom gostoprimstvu. Drago mi je što sam u proteklim danima bio u prilici da čujem vaše stavove i razmijeni mišljenja o velikom broju pitanja od značaja za region OEBS-a. Tema godišnjeg zasjedanja dodatno dobija na težini i aktuelnosti u svjetlu rastuće globalne nestabilnosti, kada se suočavamo sa velikim izazovima, rizicima i prijetnjama u regionu OEBS-a i šire. Nažalost, već 4 godine parlamentarnu skupštinu održavamo u uslovima najozbiljnije krize u evropskoj bezbjednosti u posljednjih nekoliko decenija, odnosno neriješene krize u i oko Ukrajine. Ne smijemo također zaboraviti ni brojne zamrznute konflikte na području OEBS-a, kao ni brutalne sukobe na Bliskom istoku. Suočeni smo sa ogromnim izazovima i prijetnjama, kao što su rast terorizma i migrantska izbjeglička kriza, sajber napadi, spori oporavak od ekonomske krize i pitanje klimatskih promjena. I dok je neupitno da bi naš fokus trebao da bude na mirnom rješavanju aktuelnih konflikata, kao i na zajedničkom odgovoru na ozbiljne prijetnje i izazove današnjice, isto tako je nesporno da imajući u vidu domino efekat pojave nacionalizama i populizma, to moramo raditi na način koji ne ograničava i ne urušava ljudska prava i osnovne slobode. S ponosom uvijek ističem građanski karakter Crne Gore. u kojoj na malom prostoru u harmoniji žive različite etničke grupe i pripadnici više konfesija. U periodu krvavog raspada Titove Jugoslavije uspjeli smo da sačuvamo stabilnost, unutrašnji sklad i poštedimo teritoriju Crne Gore ratnih razaranja. Obnovili smo državnost na referendumu 2006. godine mirnim putem i uz poštovanje najviših demokratskih standarda. Kao prioritete svoje vanjske politike utvrdili smo njegovanje dobrosusjedskih odnosa i regionalne saradnje, integraciju u Sjevernoatlantski savez koju smo u junu 2017. uspješno priveli kraju, kao i članstvo u Europskoj uniji koje će biti u fokusu naše vanjske politike u predstojećem periodu. Proces pregovora sa EU, koji uspješno vodimo već 5 godina, doživljavamo prije svega kao optimalan okvir za sprovođenje neophodnih reformi i usvajanje najviših standarda u cilju unapređenja kvaliteta života naših građana. Crna Gora, čuvajući svoj identitet i posebnosti, istovremeno ostaje otvorena za saradnju sa svima koji su posvećeni dijalogu i obezbeđivanju trajnog mira na prostoru koji obuhvata države članice OEBS-a. Svjesni izreke slavnog Alberta Einsteina da je lakše razbiti atom nego predrasude, moramo shvatiti da je uklanjanje predrasuda dugoročni interes i proces koji zahtijeva našu svakodnevnu posvećenost. Taj rad se temelji prije svega na realnom sagledavanju slike, prvo o sebi pa onda i o drugima, kao osnovi za stvaranje međusobnog povjerenja, razmjene iskustava i osjećaju zajedničke odgovornosti. Na kraju, usudit ću se da kažem da mi kao izabrani predstavnici građana imamo posebnu odgovornost budući da svakodnevno donosimo odluke koje na najneposredniji način utiču na kvalitet njihovih života. Zato nas i povjerenje koje nam je ukazano obezbeđuje da mir, bezbjednost i dobrobit svih građana regiona OEBS-a budu naši zajednički prioritetni ciljevi na kojima će se temeljiti sve naše buduće aktivnosti i politike koje kreiramo. To je najveći zalog koji možemo ostaviti budućim generacijama. Želim gospođi Mutonen i gospođi Barnett da čestitam izbor, a vama zahvaljujem na pažnji.
Thank you very much. We now move to give the floor to speakers. I have till now a number of 41 inscriptions. This is a huge list of speakers. I will limit speaking time to 3 minutes, only 3 minutes. Be very careful in the way you use your time. I call now Mr. Dobre from Romania. Mr. Dobre, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we all have a common vision on the vitality and potential of OSCE. At the same time, I think that we agree on the need to favor its empowerment and to better use its cooperation opportunities. This means much more than encouraging all forms of parliamentary dialogue and cooperation, a principle that guides the Romanian parliamentary diplomacy, but also to make use of a parliamentarian stronger connection to the citizens. Distinguished colleagues, past experience should lead us today to a common path, and at the same time we must face the reality and match our high expectation with the speed of possible future developments. Several emerging challenges oblige us to find urgent solutions. I would remind you just few of these challenges, namely the large movements of migrants and refugees, terrorism and radicalization, the risk of conflict, trafficking in arms, human beings, and drugs. Dear colleagues, there are several tools we can better make use of their potential. Among them, I would briefly refer to the consensus-based decision-making process. Romania considers the diversity of our OSCE community as an advantage and not as a liability for taking meaningful decisions in dealing with a current unpredictable environment. The success of our Assembly is coming from the things that unite us. In other words, our energy would be much efficiently used in activity where a consensus has been reached, while on issues where this consensus shows to be problematic, we should try to develop common ground with a higher impact in terms of confidence building. Thus, we will better focus on solutions and more successful in making use of the opportunities offered by the OSCE region with positive results for the prosperity of our citizens. In this regard, we should not forget the importance and benefits of utilizing the OSCE presences and operations on the ground, in particular, the important role of OSCE Special Monitoring Mission in Ukraine is playing in stabilizing the ceasefire in implementations of the Minsk agreements. Honorable audience, I would like to mention here Romania's significant contribution to the SMM. At the end, I want to firstly highly appreciate the valuable work done for our Assembly by our President, Mrs. Mutonen. I would not end before expressing my sincere gratitude towards the host, our colleague from Belarus, for their outstanding hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Doris Barnett, the floor is yours. She's not here? Okay. Mr. Artur Gerasimov from Ukraine.
Thank you, Madam Chair, dear colleagues. First of all, let me thank you, the Assembly, for supporting the resolution of restoration of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. As long as the conflict started by Russia is not resolved in full accordance with the OSCE principles and commitments, the challenges will remain present. The brutal violation of fundamental OSCE principles triggered multiple dangerous consequences that aggravate the security environment on the European continent. The ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine represents an affront to all OSCE participating states, undermining confidence in the basic rules of peaceful coexistence between states, including respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, inviolability of frontiers, non-use of force or of threat of force. It is critically important to maintain firmness and solidarity in upholding our common principles and values. Let me also mention that we share the recognition of importance of fostering joint efforts in countering terrorism in all its manifestations. What is needed are more practical steps, not just political declarations. The Russian Federation was the country that vetoed the UN Security Council resolution on establishment of international tribunal to bring to account the perpetrators of a horrible terrorist attack on Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 that killed 298 people on board. We expect Russia to remove obstructions to bringing the responsible to justice. The International Court of Justice considers the case now on Russia's violation of International Convention on Suppressing the Financing of Terrorism. We expect Russia to stop these violations immediately, not awaiting the court ruling. We believe there are possibilities for enhanced cooperation, but it requires full respect to core OSCE principles and values, including the inviolability of frontiers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Barnett, do you have conditions to start now? Yes?
Okay. Ja, vielen Dank, Frau Präsidentin. Ich dachte, ich wäre Nummer 12, deswegen. Okay. Ja, liebe Kolleginnen, liebe Kollegen, die großen Herausforderungen unserer Zeit sind ja Thema unserer Sitzung und es gibt auch neue Gefahren in unserer Zeit. Es sind nicht mehr die großen Kriege zwischen Staaten, die wir beachten müssen, wie in den letzten 2000 Jahren, sondern die neue Herausforderung heißt Terrorismus, Angriffe von dritter Seite, die Chaos, die das Niederringen der staatlichen und gesellschaftlichen Ordnung eigentlich wollen. Und natürlich auch, was sind unsere Werte heute? Es ist ganz wichtig, dass wir uns über unsere Werte im Klaren sind. Es sind die von Helsinki, bitteschön, für uns alle. Sicher, der Zeitgeist ändert sich, aber auch die Werte, das glaube ich eher nicht, denn zu unseren Werten gehört oder sollte gehören die Unverletzlichkeit der Grenzen. Es wurden uns aber auch neue Aufgaben auferlegt und die kommen mit der Digitalisierung, mit der neuen industriellen Revolution, zu die wir auch hier im OSZE-Raum Antworten brauchen, denn sie betreffen jeden Lebensbereich. Es betrifft die Arbeitswelt, die Produktion, die Gesundheit, die Kommunikation. Und es wäre gut, wenn wir uns da bald dran machen, hier für unseren ganzen Raum auch Antworten zu finden. Unsere Versammlung ist erwachsen geworden. Wir haben mehr Selbstbewusstsein und es ist auch eine neue Herausforderung, denn wir haben die parlamentarische Diplomatie entwickelt. Wir, die gewählten Abgeordneten unserer Länder, übernehmen auch auf internationaler Bühne Verantwortung. Das zeigen unsere Resolutionen, unsere Arbeitsgruppen, unsere Besuche und Reisen innerhalb der OSZE. Aber wir müssen natürlich unserer Arbeit auch Nachdruck verleihen, sonst haben wir nur Papier produziert. Und man darf schon auch mal fragen, nehmen uns denn unsere Regierungen ernst mit den Papieren, die wir erstellen? Und diskutieren wir in den eigenen Parlamenten darüber? Ich bin mir bewusst, dass diese Herausforderungen nicht für alle ganz einfach sind, aber schließlich wollen wir hier nicht nur Lippenbekenntnisse. Das führt mich zu einem weiteren Punkt, der bedeutend ist. Für mich ist es wichtig, dass unsere Organisation auch arbeitsfähig ist. Das heißt, wir brauchen die finanziellen Mittel, um die Aufgaben, die wir uns stellen und die wir auch haben, ausführen zu können. Deshalb müssen wir mit der OSZE, mit dem Ministerrat der OSZE reden, unsere Mittel zu überdenken. Ich danke Alain Nery aus Frankreich dafür, dass er das immer wieder anführt. Es kann nicht sein, dass wir einen kleinen, einen kleinen Etat haben und dann auf zufällige Zuwendungen von einzelnen Mitgliedsländern angewiesen sind. Ich bin überaus dankbar für das, was wir bekommen von Österreich, von Dänemark, von Italien. Aber ich hätte das gerne regelmäßig, also nicht von den Ländern, das bekommen wir ja, sondern auch regelmäßig höhere Zahlungen von anderen Mitgliedstaaten. Auch wünsche ich mir, dass wir die Entschließungen, die wir treffen, hin und wieder überprüfen, was aus denen geworden ist, dass es nicht nur ein Stück Papier geblieben ist. Vielen Dank.
Mr. Emmanuel Maglia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Allow me to reiterate, Chairperson, the importance that the OSCE participating states represented here on a parliamentary level express solidarity through concrete, targeted and timely actions with a participating state in difficulty. I am particularly referring to our Italian friends who in the past few days have had to host an unprecedented number of asylum seekers and migrants from North Africa. Let us not forget, dear colleagues, that it is the duty of each and every advanced state to intervene not only to help another state on the brink of collapse, but also to honor its commitments as regards international humanitarian law. In particular, participating states, who are also member states of the European Union, should seriously consider the appeals of the European Commission to fulfill their pledges in relation to the relocation of migrants based on a quota system. The central Mediterranean, notably Italy, is in crisis. The region cannot and should not be left alone to cope with this huge challenge. Malta has always and will continue to support Italy and other states in difficulty. Migration is a shared responsibility between states. Let us refrain, dear colleagues, from using divisive language, discourse of fear and threats, of erecting fences and border closure, as this approach is not only short-sighted and does not lead to long-term solutions, but also runs counter to the European spirit of openness and solidarity. In the midst of all this, let us not forget the human aspect of the migration crisis. Many are attempting the perilous journey across the Mediterranean, or worse, dying in the attempt. I do realize that the solution is politically difficult. However, if we lack boldness to act now, the challenge will keep resurfacing, causing serious difficulties both to the host state and host community, and to the thousands of migrants involved. Those who genuinely need asylum must be given the chance to rebuild their lives. More needs to be done and enable asylum seekers to seek legal ways to leave rather than flee their country. Each and every one of those crossing the Mediterranean has a story to tell, a story to share, which alas is one of human suffering, fear, pain, and loss of hope. Finally, I would like to thank the Chair for her sterling work within this organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll give the floor to Mrs. Nilza Sena from Portugal, and after it will be Mr. George Tseratelli.
Thank you, dear Madam President, dear colleagues. Our theme for this session is enhancing mutual trust and cooperation for peace and prosperity in OSCE region. But I would like to make some few comments regarding the climate change. In the OSCE, unique approach, security, peace, cooperation, prosperity, and also climatic issues are intertwined. Today we are experiencing the climate changes that for so long we have read and heard about. Let's talk only about facts. Last May 2017 was the second warmest May in 137 years of modern record keeping. May 2017 was 0.88 degrees Celsius warmer than the mean May temperature from 1961 to 1980. The two top May temperature anomalies have occurred during the past 2 years. Global sea level rose about 8 inches in the last century. The rate in the last 2 decades, however, is nearby double that of the last century. The planet average surface temperature has risen about 2 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century, a change driven largely by increased carbon dioxide and other human-made emissions into the atmosphere. Most of the warming occurred in the past 35 years, with 16 and 17 warmest years on the record occurring since 2001. Not only was 2016 the warmest year on the record, but 8 of the 12 months that make up the year were the warmest on record for those respective months. Our oceans have observed much of this increased heat, with the top of 700 meters of ocean showing warming of 0.302 degrees Fahrenheit since 1969. The impact of climate change are global and unprecedented in scale. Climate change is one of the major challenges we face in our time. At the 21st COP in Paris, we reached an historical agreement with all the countries saying that it was urgent to accelerate and intensify actions, intensify investments to obtain a future of sustainable low carbon. All nations for the first time agreed to take efforts to combat climate change. I'll finish, dear President, to express my concern in many occasions, and once again I take this opportunity to call OSCE countries to unite in this common challenge that has to be a common goal. Thank you.
Secretary, the floor is yours, and after next speaker, it will be Mr. Ashted Kent.
Thank you, Isabel. Dear friends and colleagues, so we are, let's say, finishing our work tomorrow, and as always, interesting to be here and to discuss a broad range of issues which are, let's say, in a portfolio of our organization: terrorism, migration, climate change, democratic values, and human rights. And of course, there are very valuable contributions which we appreciate all. But we have also a number of huge challenges in the OSCE region, and we'd like to admit it. And we are always trying to be frank with that. So if we'd like to increase trust among us, among the countries, then truth is a prerequisite for that. And we have to admit which troubles and difficulties we have in the region. And of course, security is very important. And many times we mentioned during even this assembly protracted conflicts, which are a concern, several protracted conflicts in the region which are concerned for the assembly. I would like to say that Georgia is an affected country, and which is unfortunate in all this. His story of what happened is that it's a very low progress, and we have no progress despite of number of resolutions and despite of many times condemnation of the situation, what happened after Russian invasion. The situation in Ukraine also alarming, and we heard here remarks of Ambassador Apakan about the situation, and also our Ukrainian colleagues contributed and described the situation. So it's very difficult to restore this trust and to have, let's say, constructive relations, at least with Russia at this moment, when with one hand, let's say, doing some constructive efforts and making efforts, and with the other hand, what's happening in Georgia every day, annexing more and more territories, putting more barbed wires, and putting under threat more and more local people who are living, in fact, in very, very difficult situation. So we are expecting from Russia to respect obligations they took, and we're expecting even small steps, which we've never seen, unfortunately, in this current situation, and it's a very bad sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kent Ashted from Sweden is not here. Mrs. Gulbadkor Naziri from Tajikistan.
Уважаемая госпожа председатель, уважаемые коллеги, позвольте от имени делегации Республики Таджикистан сердечно приветствовать участников и гостей летней 26-й сессии Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ и выразить глубокую признательность организаторам и лично белорусского парламента за теплый прием и предоставленную возможность обменяться мнениями. За годы своего существования Парламентская ассамблея ОБСЕ стала крупной площадкой для обсуждения вопросов экономического развития, экологической безопасности и совершенствования законодательной деятельности. Эффективное управление природными ресурсами является основой устойчивого развития всех государств и напрямую влияет на здоровье и качество жизни миллионов людей. Республика Таджикистан является одним из активных участников глобальных процессов. Для решения экологических проблем на глобальном уровне наша республика несколько раз выходила с конкретными предложениями, одобренными Генеральной Ассамблеей ООН. В прошлом году Генеральная ассамблея ООН одобрила инициативу президента Республики Таджикистан Эмомали Рахмона и объявила новое международное десятилетие действий «Вода для устойчивого развития 2018-2028 год». А в феврале 2017 года парламентом Республики Таджикистан одобрено Парижское соглашение по климату. Природу нельзя оградить границами, постами, она должна служить всем народам, целым регионам. И поэтому очень важно, чтобы мы объединяли свои усилия, развивали межгосударственное и межправительственное сотрудничество по охране природы, по воспитанию разумного к ней отношения, при умножении ее богатства для ныне живущих и будущих поколений наших народов. Хочу отметить, что в содержательном и весьма обоснованными фактами докладе госпожи Мариетты Тидей для Общего комитета по экономическим вопросам, науке, технологии и окружающей среде рассматривались две ключевые проблемы – изменение климата и миграция. Действительно, это структурные проблемы, последствия которых могут серьезно сказываться на каждом аспекте экономической и общественной жизни наших стран, являются очень важными. И международному сообществу необходимо не только обратить внимание на решение данных проблем, но и дать четкий и убедительный ответ. Вчера мы встречались с жителями Беларуси, и они, как граждане других стран, ожидают от нас решения многих проблем. Они уверены, что видные политики на протяжении этих нескольких важных для мирового сообщества дней подготовили рекомендации для решительных действий. Дорогие друзья, жизнь показывает, что лучшим и наиболее конструктивным ответом на многие вызовы современной эпохи является именно взаимопонимание, дружба и сотрудничество между нашими странами. Мы уверены, что наши новые идеи и инициативы найдут свое практическое воплощение в реальных делах и проектах, будут способствовать укреплению дружбы и сотрудничества и восстановлению мира и согласия во всем мире. Желаю вам, дорогие друзья, дальнейшего плодотворного сотрудничества, успешных деловых контактов и новых достижений в труде. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mart Nut from Estonia, you have the floor, and after it will be Mr. Luigi Campagna from Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to start with a sad statement that the security situation today is much worse than some years ago. There are conflicts located inside of the OSCE area, ongoing civil war in Syria and Iraq, and the ISIS-supported activities influence too many OSCE countries directly. To these problems we have to find solutions, and we have to do it together. Migration crisis that Europe faces today, a result of the Middle East conflicts, has become a difficult task for all OSCE countries, especially Greece, Italy and Turkey. We have to promote the understanding among the members of the Parliamentary Assembly that migration also means human trafficking, illegal immigration and violation of human rights. We have to face these problems very seriously in changing the work already done in this field and also to improve the future prospects for refugees. Speaking of violation of human rights, the conflicts in Crimea and southeast of Ukraine are not over at all. We have to recognize that to solve them is mainly in hands of Russia. So we call the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly to invite Russian authorities to recognize its participation in this conflict, withdraw its supporting armed troops out of Ukraine and constructively cooperate to restore territorial integrity of Ukraine. All violent conflicts are at the same time attacks against human rights, and OSCE participating states have the obligation to respect and protect human rights. Lack of security and violation of human rights are two sides of the same coin. It means also that the solution of conflicts and protection of human rights are two sides of the same coins. Ladies and gentlemen, our host country, Belarus, has a very important role in the security architecture of the OSCE space. We recognize Belarus' initiatives by contributing to solve conflicts in the former Soviet Union region. And last but not least, I would like also to thank our hosts, the National Assembly of Belarus, for excellent organizing of the OSCE parliamentary session in Minsk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Luigi Campagna, and the next speaker will be Mr. Guliev from Azerbaijan. Mr. Campagna from Italy.
Grazie signora Presidente. La nostra è un'assemblea parlamentare e tale deve sempre restare. Non mi piace quando la nostra assemblea assume il volto di un tribunale, meno che mai di un tribunale della democrazia che non può esistere o di un procuratore d'accusa in tema di human rights. Da questo punto di vista mi sono piaciuti invece due bei momenti della nostra assemblea. È stato quando stamattina, su iniziativa di un collega russo, l'onorevole Kovalev, sapientemente supportato da alcuni emendamenti della delegazione americana, abbiamo approvato un supplementary item che restituisce alla nostra assemblea parlamentare una prerogativa importante. L'OSCE si occupò di terrorismo all'indomani dell'11 settembre. Ci vedemmo a San Pietroburgo. Come dice giustamente il supplementary item di stamattina, il terrorismo ha molti volti, ha molte varianti, ma c'è un aspetto che è nuovo, che è quello che sfugge alla comunità internazionale. Oggi il terrorismo è soprattutto terrorismo suicida e questo è angosciante, il che non vuol dire però che si debba in qualche modo limitare la libertà di religione. Ecco perché stamattina mi è piaciuta anche il supplementary item presentato da Ludmila Mariuskova e anche questo supportato da opportuni emendamenti americani. La questione della libertà di religione non è una questione di tolleranza di religioni diverse o di nessuna religione, è una garanzia della libertà. La libertà di religione è la libertà delle libertà e da questo punto di vista mi è piaciuto l'intervento del rappresentante della Santa Sede in appoggio alla bella mozione della collega russa. Allora da questo punto di vista c'è una contrapposizione molto nitida che l'OSCE non deve mai smarrire. Noi siamo per lo Stato di diritto e non ci piace lo Stato etico. Da questo punto di vista tutta la mia solidarietà alla delegazione israeliana che ha visto per l'ennesima volta l'UNESCO a nome dell'ONU impegnato in una mozione stupida, inutile e destinata a sollevare fratture invece che ad aprire il dialogo. E per concludere, quando stamattina un collega svedese sembrava Zola di Jacques sul giornale di Clemenceau nei confronti di amici bielorussi, di amici kirghisi, di amici russi, io ho pensato che non è questa la strada migliore. Giustamente una collega svizzera ci aveva richiamato alle questioni della Turchia. Io sono amico, alleato della Turchia. Nella NATO, la vorrei in Europa. Però, amici turchi, non è una questione che riguarda voi. Non si può passare dal parlamentarismo al presidenzialismo e in quel periodo privare di libertà, addirittura mettere in carcere i parlamentari. Di qui il mio disagio di fronte a chi veste i panni del procuratore d'accusa. Io non voglio assumerli nei confronti della Turchia e di nessun altro. Questo deve essere lo spirito del nostro lavoro. Grazie.
Grazie. Mr. Azay Guliev, and next speaker it will be Mrs. Artadade. Mr. Azay Guliev from Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to start with thanking the delegation of Belarus and the Belarusian authorities for excellent organization of this meeting. Despite productive discussions over the last 3 days on numerous important decisions, it remains to be a sad reality that the threats we face, most notably conflicts, terrorism and violent extremism, cyber threats, rising xenophobia and intolerance will remain with us in the near future. This makes it urgent for all of us to realize the seriousness of the situation and understand our responsibility to move beyond rhetoric, to conquer actions, and abandon approaches inspired by confrontation and stereotypes. Sufferings of millions of citizens across the OECD region and its neighborhood cannot become normality of life. It is in the hands of politicians and decision makers to prevent this from becoming fate of the people and countries and provide better future for coming generations. Dear colleagues, at this critical time, guiding principles enshrined in the Helsinki Final Act is the recipe for fostering security and stability in our shared region through genuine dialogue and cooperation. The Helsinki Final Act principles should not be subject to revision as they are non-negotiable. The principles are valid if and only if they are applied unreservedly without any double standards, geographic, political, or any other preferences. In this regard, attempts of misinterpretation or selective application of the Helsinki principles can erode the fundamental basis of interstate relations in the OECD area. If not reversed and resolutely rejected, we should act in solidarity in response to violations of our shared principles and commitments. In many respects, the Assembly succeeded to neutralize attempts to undermine its intentions to redefine the philosophy of Helsinki Final Act. I am confident that many decisions we took here in Minsk will be significant contribution to overall efforts improve security environment in our shared region. In order to make it happen, our efforts both at national and international levels should be strengthened to translate our decisions into concrete actions. In the meantime, recommendations of the Assembly should be taken into account in activities of the government side of the OECD. It is in this context that I reiterate the necessity of increased coordination and cooperation between the Assembly and the OECD, including its relevant structures and formats. It is within the understanding that I call for increased efforts to improve efficiency and effectiveness of the Assembly, including through strengthening role and activities of special representatives and coordinators, and better integrating their work into activities of OECD. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We have a change in our speakers list. I'm going to give the floor to Mrs. Fatma Madu from Albania, and the next speaker, it will be Mr. Atis Lezings from Latvia.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I haven't decided to change my sexual position yet. I'm Mr. Fatma Mediu from Albania.
Okay, it was not clear.
Okay. And I want to thank the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly for observing the elections in Albania, and especially for addressing the issues of last June elections, quoting a widespread allegation of vote buying and pressure on voters detracted from public trust in the electoral process. We have seen a situation that some people connected with organized crime have gained more votes than organized political parties. And unfortunately, this makes the situation very concerning. It might change from political and government corruption to a tendency to corrupt the society. And we need your help and support to work ruling party and opposition on electoral reform and constitutional reform as well. On my way to Minsk, I was reading an article about baby killers. It was very troubling. It was an article about kids that were taken to the ISIS schools and training camps. Thousands of them are brainwashed. Some of them already have committed killing of the kuffars, so-called non-believers. ISIS might be crumbling, but thousands of children that are brainwashed could terrorize us for years. The question is that many of them are already in Europe, but can they be rehabilitated in Europe, in Syria, and the other places? By saying that, let me have your attention about the Balkans and security challenges there. The Balkan countries are facing a series of problems. Geopolitical rivalry is stoking tensions in the region. EU membership remains the main goal for Balkan countries, but EU fatigue on new member states has raised a lot of skepticism. Turkey has become more present in promoting its interest. US wants to incorporate Balkans into NATO. Russia is extending its political, economic, and military influence, considering the Balkans as their own backyard, as one mentioned in Barkunda Conference in 2007 in Munich. The Balkans are especially vulnerable to infiltration of ISIS. Our diverse ethnic and multi-religious region has seen a number of historic conflicts, some of them still simmering and others dormant, which could be ignited by this new seed of radicalism. Most of the states in the region have a very unstable political situation, weak institutions and security institutions, stretched thin by economic crisis, political infights, corruption, and the increasing numbers of refugees and migrants trying to get to EU. Prolonged economic crisis and high unemployment have alienated many, exposing youth especially to radicalization. The increased return and presence of fanatical foreign fighters of ISIS returning is a serious and immediate threat. The Balkans has especially a role to play in combating this threat, being a major route into Europe and bridge for ISIS funding, supplies, and recruitment. An organized intelligence coordination center, in my belief, is important. A database clearinghouse system must be built. A solution for migrant crisis is still remaining an emergency. States should immediately start working on developing more adequate cybersecurity strategy. The EU must provide a clear strategy for Euro-Atlantic integration. A coordinated strategy should be developed for dealing with returning foreign fighters and their families. And also you should have great efforts with the religion communities to identify the groups that are under the influence of extremism. So I want to support also the proposal of President Putin about establishing an ad hoc committee on anti-terrorism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mr. Atis Legings from Latvia, and the next speaker it will be Mr. Georgios Varamenos from Greece.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yesterday, in the first committee debating the annexation of Crimea, reference was made to the other European countries by drawing comparisons in the past. Today, the first committee endorsed the supplementary item on terrorism with important amendments. In the third paragraph, it is stated clearly the inviolability of state borders. Allow me, Madam Chair, to explain how my parents voted to join the Soviet Union in 1940 after fighting for the independence of Latvia. When I was a boy, I asked them why, and they replied, "You were on the way, son, to join your older brother and your sister in our family." Russian troops were everywhere. We had to accommodate an officer's family in our apartment. Also, the KGB were everywhere. We no longer knew who to trust. People were suddenly disappearing. Fear, Atis. May you never experience such fear. Let me also commend the countries that did not recognize the incorporation of the Baltic states into the Soviet Union. This policy was certainly justified when the Baltic states regained their independence in 1991 after almost 50 years of occupation. But today, the Russian Federation still does not recognize that the Baltic states were occupied. Russia still maintains my parents voted freely to join Stalin's happy family of nations. Now let me ask you, how does this square with the principles enshrined in the Helsinki Final Act? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Mr. Varamenos from Greece, and after it will be Mrs. Harmin Nagdalian from Armenia.
Thanks. Dear colleagues, there is a common place that we are living in a troubled world. Okay, our generation didn't meet a generalized war, but there are several peripheral conflicts, terrorist threats, and religious divisions and fanatics. In Balkans, old demons and fears are reviving, and the broader Mediterranean and Middle East became a protracted and complicated battleground with an unprecedented flows of migrants, the biggest after World War II. Our country, Greece, despite economic difficulties, wants to be and really is an island of stability in the region. We believe in building collaboration as we made with Egypt, Cyprus and Israel, not to confront other countries or blocs, but with a strong willingness to broader collaboration for benefit of peace and prosperity. We want to collaborate with our neighbor Turkey and made an enormous effort to find a solution in Cyprus problem, but unfortunately we didn't meet the same political will from the other side of the table. We want to hope that this is not the end of the road. We strongly believe that there is no place for tensions or threats or nervous reactions or regression to old grandeurs and overall for revisionism of the international pacts. Regarding to the north of us, we believe that the late political change in the former Republic of Macedonia opened a road for further cooperation and solution in any difference with our neighbor country. Concluding, I want to stress that building local cooperations is an important contribution in enhancing the peace and prosperity perspectives at international level. Greece has welcomed and supported the newly launched structured dialogue on the current and future challenges and security risks in OSCE area. The OSCE activities in migration crisis was a great initiative. Let's to continue in the same way, to strengthen our voice in order to persuade governments to do more on this field. It's time to do that in order to convince people that we can to express genuinely their will and to minimize the distance between us and them. Otherwise, there will be a big crisis of the representation. That means a crisis of democracy and strengthening of anti-democratic forces. I hope that will be the opposite, will happen the opposite. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mrs. Armeni Nagdaliani from Armenia, and the next speaker, it will be Mr. Luc Berthold from Canada.
Thank you, Mrs. President. I would like to start by thanking our Belarusian hosts for their excellent hospitality and arrangements which created necessary conditions for our joint work. It was the first time I was attending this esteemed gathering of parliamentarians, and I am happy to share with all of you my assessment of our joint work. We parliamentarians need to show that OSCE Parliamentary Assembly is relevant to the challenges we are facing today. And this relevance is determined by three very simple points. First, do we react timely and impartially to urgent security issues? Second, when we claim that OSCE commitments and principles are violated, do we lead by example, at least in our resolutions, or we downplay and disregard those basic principles as well? Third, are we able to use this platform for building confidence, at least in the perception that we parliamentarians are part of solution rather than problem? I leave this important gathering with not clear-cut answer. The declaration we have adopted did not sufficiently address very urgent issues. For instance, the urgent need to address recent and continued escalation on the line of contact in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict area was not reflected in the resolution, along with the necessity of implementation already agreed measures of the escalation. These measures are important because they would give opportunity to the OSCE to be on the ground in the conflict area and verify accusations of ceasefire violation. Instead of initiating blame game and promoting one-sided propaganda, we should create a framework of accountability and transparency of actions of the parties to the conflict. Second, we are truly disappointed that persons who have been chosen by us to assess violation of OSCE commitments in drafting resolutions openly downgrade principles of Helsinki Final Act by calling, for example, equal rights and self-determination of people as difficult principle. This is an open invitation to non-compliance, since any OSCE commitments and principles can be seen by others as a difficult one. Conflicts are generally not easy and difficult. Hence, if we want to be seen as useful mechanism in conflict-related issues, we should not revise OSCE principles, which are not easy or difficult, but are of equal force. We remember that the parliamentarians played essential role in establishing ceasefire in 1994. The Bishkek Protocol was signed by the heads of parliament and government of Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan and Armenia. Parliamentarians altogether can bring added value to peace, not to war. Let's remember this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Luc Berthold from Canada, and the next speaker it will be Mrs. Laura Castel from Spain.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. D'abord, je tiens à féliciter d'entrée de jeu la présidence de l'OSCE pour la qualité de nos travaux ici à Minsk, de même que tous les membres du personnel de l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE. Je veux aussi remercier nos hôtes de Biélorussie pour l'accueil et tous ces jeunes volontaires qui nous ont accompagnés depuis notre arrivée. L'Ukraine a occupé une place importante de nos délibérations dans le cadre de cette 26e Assemblée annuelle. J'aurais aimé ne pas avoir à parler du sujet, mais la position de la Russie en Ukraine est inacceptable et surtout contraire aux engagements de l'OSCE et au droit international. En tant que parlementaires, nous devons continuer à condamner les actes illégaux et illégitimes de la Russie. Dans les forums internationaux comme la présente Assemblée, il est de notre devoir de continuer tant que la crise ne sera pas résolue. Mon pays, le Canada, entretient une bonne relation avec l'Ukraine, une relation qui a notamment été enrichie en 2016 par la signature d'une entente de libre-échange qui créera de nouvelles possibilités pour les entreprises des deux pays. Notre relation s'est intensifiée avec la crise actuelle. Nous avons adopté cette semaine un point additionnel pour le rétablissement de la souveraineté et de l'intégrité territoriale de l'Ukraine. Dans ce document, il est mentionné à plusieurs reprises qu'il faut se mettre à l'action. Le Canada a imposé des sanctions ciblées contre 305 entités et particuliers russes et ukrainiens. Comme le prévoit la déclaration de Tbilissi de 2016 de la présente Assemblée, de telles sanctions politiques et économiques constituent une réponse légitime aux actes illégaux de la Russie en Ukraine qui vont à l'encontre des 10 principes de l'acte final d'Helsinki. Depuis le début de la crise, en 2013, les parlementaires canadiens ont appuyé de nombreuses initiatives majeures de l'Association parlementaire de l'OSCE pour la souveraineté et l'intégrité territoriale de l'Ukraine. Par exemple, à Helsinki, en 2015, mon collègue Dean Allison a travaillé étroitement avec nos homologues ukrainiens pour présenter un point supplémentaire sur les violations manifestes et non corrigées des engagements de l'OSCE et des normes internationales par la Fédération de Russie, ensuite adoptées dans la déclaration d'Helsinki. À l'échelle intergouvernementale, le Canada aide l'Ukraine de diverses façons. Notamment, le Canada a prolongé sa mission d'entraînement militaire en Ukraine jusqu'à la fin mars 2019. En avril de cette année, le Canada et l'Ukraine ont également signé l'accord de coopération en matière de défense qui devrait accroître la coopération militaire bilatérale. Notre pays a aussi fourni à l'Ukraine des prêts de stabilisation de l'aide bilatérale au développement, de l'aide à la réforme du secteur de la sécurité et de l'aide humanitaire pour les gens touchés par le conflit dans l'est de l'Ukraine. De plus, le Canada fournit jusqu'à 50 moniteurs à la mission de surveillance spéciale de l'OSCE, en plus d'envoyer des observateurs pour les élections, notamment des parlementaires, pour participer à des missions d'observation en 2014 et 2015. En conclusion, je tiens à rappeler que les accords de Minsk demeurent la meilleure voie pour l'Ukraine et la région. Je suis d'accord, le processus de paix de Minsk est la seule voie possible vers une paix durable.
Thank you. Mrs. Laura Castel, and after it will be Mr. Petr Tolstoy from Russia Federation. Mrs. Laura Castel from Spain.
Gracias, Presidenta. En esta sesión se nos ha invitado a discutir cómo podemos reforzar la confianza y la cooperación mutua para la paz y la prosperidad en nuestra región. Aprovecho para felicitar a los ponentes y a los colegas por su excelente trabajo. Para fortalecer el proyecto OSCE y reafirmar el componente democrático y la legitimidad es imprescindible el compromiso. Y para conseguir el compromiso y la legitimidad es necesario respetar la voluntad popular expresada en las urnas. En 2015, Cataluña votó mayoritariamente a fuerzas políticas favorables a la independencia. De hecho, más del 80% del pueblo catalán ha manifestado querer resolver este conflicto político mediante un referéndum acordado con el gobierno español. Sin embargo, y a pesar de las peticiones enmarcadas en movilizaciones masivas, pacíficas y repetidas y con la participación de millones de ciudadanos, el gobierno de España se niega a acordar este referéndum. Ante esta reiterada negativa, el Gobierno de Cataluña convocó una consulta participativa sin consecuencias jurídicas, solo para dilucidar la voluntad de los catalanes. Participaron 2.300.000 personas y más del 80% votaron a favor de la independencia. La reacción de las instituciones españolas ha sido no el acuerdo de un referéndum, sino la exigencia de responsabilidades penales a miembros del Gobierno de Cataluña elegidos democráticamente, que solo cumplían el cometido electoral por el que fueron elegidos. Y la exigencia de responsabilidades penales a la presidenta y a los miembros de la mesa del Parlamento por facilitar el debate en sede parlamentaria, violando las prerrogativas parlamentarias y los derechos de libertad de opinión, libertad de expresión y representación política. El Defensor del Pueblo ha emitido un informe en que analiza la regresión en España de los derechos humanos, la violación de la libertad de expresión de los representantes electos y de la separación de poderes. Les animo a leérselo. Apreciados colegas, el rol de los parlamentos nacionales y el de la Asamblea Parlamentaria de la OSCE no pueden ser garantizados si los derechos políticos y las libertades fundamentales tampoco lo están. Los catalanes queremos votar y bajo ninguna circunstancia votar debería ser considerado un acto ilegal. Al contrario, si nos creemos el proyecto de la OSCE, votar debe ser considerado un derecho fundamental. De hecho, la Constitución española no prohíbe este camino y el Gobierno catalán desearía un referéndum acordado con el Gobierno español. Pero esta vía política está cerrada. A pesar de esta constante negativa, el Gobierno de Cataluña, con el apoyo de la mayoría parlamentaria, ha decidido llevar a cabo el referéndum. Y el próximo 1 de octubre los catalanes tendremos la oportunidad de decidir si nos queremos quedar en España o construir un Estado independiente. ¿Por qué votar para un demócrata no puede ser nunca considerado un acto ilegal? Muchas gracias.
Gracias. The next speaker is Mr. Petr Tolstoy from Russian Federation, and after I will give the floor to Mr. Victor Viorel Punta from Romania.
Благодарю вас, госпожа председатель. Хочу начать с благодарности организаторам этой сессии и с благодарности коллегам, которые сегодня участвовали вместе с нами в работе над двумя резолюциями, предложенными Российской Федерацией по усилению борьбы с терроризмом и недопустимости религиозной дискриминации. Считаю, что эти две темы, безусловно, важны для нашей организации. Две резолюции, которые рассматривались на этой сессии, российская делегация категорически не будет поддерживать. Это резолюция о так называемом восстановлении суверенитета Украины и резолюция о положении в Восточной Европе. Как ни странно, эти документы связаны между собой конфронтационной риторикой и такой попыткой в ультимативной форме давать уроки другим странам. Напоминаю о несоответствии такого стиля принципам ОБСЕ. Хочу также напомнить нашим украинским и грузинским коллегам, которые выступили с прямыми нападками в адрес моей страны, что все проблемы с их территориальной целостностью начались с того, что именно их правительства нарушили конституцию своей страны, а после этого применили военную силу против своего народа. А такие вещи не забываются. Поэтому для восстановления положения, я думаю, что должно пройти не 100 лет в Грузии и на Украине. На этой ассамблее мы часто слышали призывы вернуть Крым. Их, конечно, можно продолжать еще долго, лет 20-30, пока не надоест, но Крым есть и будет всегда частью Российской Федерации. По-другому не будет, потому что так решил народ Крыма после государственного переворота 2014 года на Украине, и он ясно высказал свою волю. Нас не перестают удивлять двойные стандарты наших коллег, по мнению которых население албанцев Косово имеет право на самоопределение, а народы Крыма и Донбасса такого права лишены. С какой стати? Хочу также предостеречь уважаемых коллег, избранников народов европейских стран от строительства новой Берлинской стены по отношению к России. Отказ слышать аргументы одного из участников, мне кажется, не пойдет на пользу ассамблеи. Я слышал слова одного моего коллеги, что мы не будем слушать российскую делегацию ради 160 миллионов граждан России. Так вот, хочу сказать, граждане России давно уже не дети. Они прекрасно понимают свои интересы, интересы своей страны и не нуждаются в уроках от кого бы то ни было. А интересы эти будут и дальше отстаивать. Ну и, наконец, коллега из Латвии, который рассказал личную историю, я тоже готов поделиться личной историей о том, как моего деда латышские стрелки в 1917 году трижды выводили на расстрел. Это что означает? Что я должен теперь вспоминать это Латвии? Предлагаю всем коллегам отрешиться от вот этих исторических аллюзий, которые связаны с Советским Союзом. Предлагаю вернуться к конструктивной работе и вести ее в интересах общей безопасности, принципов демократии и свободного определения своей судьбы всеми народами наших стран. Большое спасибо.
Thank you. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Victor Viorel Ponta from Romania, and next speaker it will be Mrs. Liza Chambers from Ireland.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mrs. Chairperson. Being a very fresh new member of the Assembly, I'll try to be very popular, having the shortest intervention, just to express our gratitude for our Belarusian host, to wish Chairwoman Mutonen and Secretary General Montella a new successful mandate, and to raise only one point. As much as I've learned about our organization, we were built on the idea of building bridges, not digging even deeper trenches. And I've been a little bit worried these days to see resolutions on Eastern Europe. Romania is from Eastern Europe, but we are a very good student. And I believe that if we want to achieve our goals, we cannot be divided in bad and good, in black and white, or east or west. This is my only point, and I will prefer to listen more until I'll get the experience to understand that we can really achieve our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for being so brief. The next speaker is Mrs. Liza Chambers from Ireland, and after I'll give the floor to Mr. Nestor Shufrish from Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I want to take this opportunity to thank our host country, Belarus, on behalf of the Irish delegation for their amazing hospitality. I have very much enjoyed participating and engaging in this year's annual meeting, which has touched upon many important issues that represent the key challenges for all of us here. Certainly the most prominent topic that I have found is terrorism and the rise of radicalisation of younger people. This is very much intertwined with Ms. Fry's report on gender issues and conflict, and I very much agree with Ms. Fry's call to action. We must act and not just talk about these issues. I also want to agree with Ms. Sederfeld's point that we as parliamentarians must find solutions. Ms. Fry has not only outlined the problems, but she has also identified some clear solutions. Integration, education and participation are key to solving the challenges we face with migrants coming to our countries. I particularly liked the use of the phrase to describe women migrants as weapons of mass inclusion. Very clever. Yesterday, in the Committee on Political Affairs and Security, we discussed at length the issues affecting us in terms of terrorism and radicalisation. And that debate and today's debate around gender issues and conflict are very much linked. Integration of migrants is key to stemming the rise in radicalisation. If we push migrants to the edges of our society, we create a perfect breeding ground for that radicalisation of younger people who may feel that they and their families have been mistreated. The point made by Ms. Fry that children from marginalised groups who have been badly treated by their host country can go on to become radicalised highlights that conflict can transcend generations and continue to bed into communities. This is why it is so important to increase female participation in peace negotiations and ensure a sustainable and workable solution throughout in a timely manner. I am heartened also to hear discussions today include an element of reflection on how we as an organisation are measuring up. Are we satisfied that we as an organisation are doing enough to get our own house in order in terms of gender balance and female participation at the highest levels? I think in this aspect we can certainly do better. I think as an organisation also it's important for us to consider and discuss, in light of our fight against terrorism, the impacts on our fundamental freedoms, in particular our right to privacy and freedom of expression. Due to the fight against terrorism, we certainly do limit these rights that we have for many years fought to gain. Take, for example, in fighting cyber threats. Are we okay to have our private emails, phone calls and text messages collected and possibly viewed by states and worse again, other states? Perhaps it's the price that we have to pay, but certainly it's a conversation worth having. My concern is that in the fight against terrorism, we will limit our own rights, and that maybe we need to talk about this now rather than wait till later. I don't want to see us changing the way that we live so much, and it seems a conversation that we're not having. The response in all aspects must be proportionate. And in limiting citizens' rights is a slippery slope. We as citizens place a lot of trust in our states not to overstep the mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Nestor Sufric from Ukraine. And after I'll give the floor to Mr. Sofio Katsarava from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Сегодня в Минске я хотел бы поблагодарить минское руководство за предоставленную для Украины площадку, на которой работает контактная группа. Сегодня, наверное, будет символично, если я донесу до сведения всех нас и тех, кто будет ознакомлен с результатами работы парламентской ассамблеи в Минске, ОБСЕ, что 2 июля 2014 года должна была состояться первая встреча контактной группы именно в Минске, после того, как 30 июня украинским руководством было принято решение выйти из режима перемирия, к организации которого я имел непосредственное участие со своим другом Виктором Медведчуком, когда мы организовали две первые встречи контактной группы ОБСЕ в Донецке 23 и 27 июня. Количество погибших было 74 и действовало перемирие. После того, как 30 июня украинское руководство дало приказ идти в атаку, открыло дорогу для военного решения этого конфликта, 1 июля господин Штайнмайер прислал свернуть военную операцию и сесть за стол переговоров. Вот тогда и возникла идея встретиться в Минске. Подчеркиваю, 2 июля 2014 года. К сожалению, прошло 7 месяцев, и 12 февраля 2015 года были подписаны Минские соглашения. Я тогда на нашей венской сессии высказал глубочайшую обеспокоенность и сомнений в том, что эти соглашения будут реализованы. На сегодняшний день погибших официально, согласно данным ООН, более 20 тысяч. Приблизительно половина погибла с одной стороны баррикады, где в Донбассе проживает сегодня чуть более 3 миллионов. Вторая половина – это 10 тысяч наших граждан, согласно официальных данных, хотя согласно данных разведки их 50 тысяч. А некоторые аналитики говорят о 70 тысячах погибших. Так вот, остальная часть легла на 40-миллионную Украину. Концентрация горя на Донбассе в 10 раз больше, чем на остальной территории Украины. Конечно, это все горе, но на Донбассе оно ощущается намного тяжелее. И там украинцы, и с другой стороны украинцы, в основном гибнут граждане Украины, независимо от того, на каком языке они говорят. И я сочувствую всем семьям погибших, и не единожды это делал, и призвал Верховный Совет Украины минутой молчания почтить память погибших. Безусловно, сегодня мы надеемся на то, что после встречи Макрона, Меркель и Путина, после вчерашней встречи Трампа с Путиным, будет оказано давление на украинскую власть в части выполнения Минских соглашений, которые выписаны и утверждены 17 февраля соответствующей резолюцией Совета Безопасности ООН и обязательны для выполнения с украинской стороны. Необходимо принять законы, которые может принять только Украинская Верховная Рада, подчеркиваю. Ни Конгресс США, ни Госдума, ни Национальное собрание Белоруссии, а именно Верховная Рада Украины. Это продлить закон про амнистию, который был принят, кстати, еще до Минских соглашений, внести реальные изменения в Конституцию, которую украинская власть обязалась сделать, принять соответствующий закон про выборы на Донбассе и про статус в этом регионе. Сегодня жители Донбасса очень далеки от Украины, к сожалению. Если в 2014 году... Some seconds only, thank you. Если в 2014 году хотели присоединиться к Украине 74% жителей Донбасса, то сегодня уже только 21%. На Донбассе созданы институты государственной власти, собственная пенсионная система, только потому, что украинская власть блокирует этот регион. Я надеюсь на то, что спецпредставитель, который определен от Соединенных Штатов, Курт Валкер, оживит консультации в рамках нормандской четверки, и визит завтрашний господина госсекретаря Тиллерсона и господина Курта Валкера в Киев все-таки простимулирует украинскую власть для того, чтобы Минские соглашения были выполнены. Без решения Верховного Совета это невозможно. Я благодарю еще раз белорусское государство и руководство за теплый прием и за представление для Украины площадки надежды. Спасибо за внимание.
The floor now is for Mrs. Sofia Katsarova from Georgia, and the next speaker it will be Mrs. Marietta Tidei from Italy.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to echo my colleagues' words of appreciation and would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our Belarusian colleagues for their hospitality and excellent organization of this event. The OSCE is facing serious challenges stemming from existing conflicts, terrorism, violent extremism, forced displacement, cybercrime, to name the few. And we have discussed these important issues over the last few days during this assembly. In the face of ongoing violation of the OSCE principles and commitments against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the participating states, we are falling far behind in achieving comprehensive concept of security. While Georgia is committed to continue its contribution to the security and stability of the region and beyond, yet Georgia has been and remains the target of aggression by another participating state. Despite Georgia's peaceful policy and constructive engagement in the Geneva international discussions co-chaired by the OSCE, the Russian Federation continues the process of factual annexation and militarization of Georgia's occupied territories. These activities are in breach of the fundamental principles of the international law as well as Russia's international obligations, first and foremost of the EU-mediated 12 August 2008 ceasefire agreement. Herewith, I would particularly like to draw your attention to the grave human rights situation in the occupied Abkhazia and Trinvali regions. Our compatriots residing in these regions are deprived of fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right to education in their native language, the right to freedom of movement, and the right to health. As we speak, the Russian Federation continues to illegally install so-called border signs along the occupation line. The illegal and artificial hardening of the occupation line divides families, separates children from their schools, farmers from their land, and the sick and elderly from medical facilities. Furthermore, this is accompanied by illegal detention and abduction of innocent civilians who wish to live in peace and go about their daily lives. The international community cannot turn a blind eye to this and must remain vigilant and vocal to the situation for the people in the occupied territories, continue to monitor and assess the ongoing developments. And I'm not going to respond to the comments of the head of the Russian delegation, as I believe everybody in this hall is aware of where the truth lies. However, despite the challenges we face, we believe the OSCE provides an important platform facilitating dialogue and finding ways for overcoming these issues. And I believe to this end, the parliamentarians play an important role. I started by mentioning some of the existing and emerging security challenges we face as an organization. Georgia stands ready to work with all our partners, both bilaterally and in regional formats such as OSCE-PA, to seek opportunities to advance our cooperation and work together to find solutions and tackle the threats that we share. We are all working for a stable, more secure world, and we can only achieve this by working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Marietta Tidei, the floor is yours, and next speaker it will be Mrs. Margareta Sederfeld from Sweden.
Sì, grazie Presidente. Anch'io desidero ringraziare la delegazione bielorussa per l'efficiente organizzazione della sessione e anche per il calore, la calorosa ospitalità con la quale ci ha accolto, e desidero altresì complimentarmi con la Presidente Muttonen e con la tesoriera Doris Barnett per questa nuova comunque elezione. Ma vedete colleghi, io credo che le sfide che ci attendono sono molteplici, dalla crisi ucraina ai conflitti protratti, alla lotta al terrorismo, alle migrazioni. Ne abbiamo parlato tanto in questi giorni. Io purtroppo prevedo che alcune crisi si aggraveranno, penso per esempio a quella dei flussi migratori, se l'impostazione nella gestione dei flussi non verrà radicalmente cambiata. Nel 2018 l'Italia assumerà la presidenza della nostra organizzazione e al centro della sua agenda, oltre ai temi che ho citato, dovrà necessariamente esserci, anche stando alle dichiarazioni del nostro Ministro degli Esteri, il Mediterraneo. E io vorrei proprio in questa sede citare il nostro Presidente del Consiglio, Paolo Gentiloni, che più volte ha usato la suggestione di una nuova Helsinki per il Mediterraneo, non solo per una gestione più efficiente dei flussi migratori, ma anche in chiave di stabilizzazione dell'intere aree. Noi tutti sappiamo, proprio parlando di migrazioni, ma anche di lotta al terrorismo, quanto è importante la stabilizzazione dell'area mediterranea. Il prossimo 24 e 25 ottobre si terrà a Palermo, una città del sud Italia, proprio la conferenza mediterranea. Sarà il momento culmine della presidenza italiana del gruppo di contatto di Mediterraneo di cui l'Italia è alla guida dallo scorso dicembre, e io spero che sarà un momento proficuo anche per mettere in agenda azioni sinergiche proprio su questo tema. L'OSCE nella sua dimensione governativa ha svolto un ottimo lavoro, soprattutto da parte della rappresentante speciale antitratta nel contesto dei flussi migratori, e un lavoro importante è stato svolto anche nella formazione di magistrati, della polizia, della società civile, dei partner mediterranei proprio sul contrasto al traffico degli esseri umani. Credo che al di là di quello che fa e fa bene la dimensione organizzativa di questa organizzazione, anche la nostra Assemblea parlamentare debba rafforzare la sua proiezione mediterranea, dare sostegno a quei paesi che vogliono, ma anche cogliere le grandi opportunità che esistono nel Mediterraneo. Ho sentito dire più volte in questa sede che comunque come parlamentari abbiamo il dovere di individuare le soluzioni ai problemi. Io credo però che noi abbiamo anche il dovere di porci obiettivi ambiziosi, perché credo che di questo ci sia altrettanto bisogno. Vedete, chiudo sul Mediterraneo perché mi sta veramente a cuore. Negli ultimi anni è stato purtroppo un enorme cimitero. Molte persone hanno perso la vita in quel tratto di mare, in quel mare, e io, per citare Brodel, invece, lo storico Brodel, mi piacerebbe che il Mediterraneo tornasse ad essere quel grande crocevia di commerci e di culture che è stato. Grazie mille.
Grazie mille. I give the floor to Mrs. Margareta Cederfeld from Sweden. Next speaker will be Mr. Jürgen Klink from Germany.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And I do also want to thank the Belarusian Parliament for hosting us. To a certain extent, we live in a troubling time. We have seemed to be standing at the crossroad where the future is unclear. When looking at the various options for the future, it must be plain for all to see that the way forward cannot be through turning inwards. We, parliamentarians and members of the OSCE PA, must continue to work together in order to tackle our most daunting challenges. With climate changes, migration, terrorism, cybercrime, and other issues on the agenda, we don't stand without important issues to deal with. The transatlantic and eastern links continue to be significant for the security and prosperity of Europe. If we are to deal with the issues at hand, which in many cases challenge our way of life, we must have a constructive dialogue based upon mutual trust and respect. However, we have to remember that the OSCE principles guide and form the basis of our cooperation. It is the common belief that we all have in international law the peaceful settlement of disputes and the sovereign equality and territorial integrity of states. And this is why I will continue to demand the Russian aggression on Ukraine. It's not acceptable in any way, and I will continue to repeat this until I could say there is peace, the Minsk agreement is respected. It is essential that we stand firm in our belief of OSCE principles as time goes by, and we should not accept that other countries make violence on another country, member country. Similarly, it is perhaps all too easy to forget the work that we have to undertake against corruption. I have said this before and I say it again, that we need to fight against corruption. We have our national laws, we can use international agreements, but we must build for a better future without corruption. And by this, I think we should not forget the progress made, and we should continue to look forward and stay true to our OSCE commitments for a better future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mr. Jürgen Klink from Germany. Next speaker will be Mr. Mavrodis Voridis from Greece.
Frau Vorsitzende, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, in unserer Debatte geht es um die Verstärkung des Vertrauens und der Zusammenarbeit in der OSZE-Region. Dieser Wiederaufbau des Vertrauens ist bitter nötig, denn die Welt ist ein Stück aus den Fugen geraten, wie es der damalige Außenminister Frank-Walter Steinmeier, unser jetziger deutscher Bundespräsident, anlässlich des deutschen OSZE-Vorsitzes im vergangenen Jahr gesagt hat. Dies betrifft nicht in erster Linie die OSZE-Region, aber eben auch diese. Der Konflikt in der Ostukraine ist immer noch nicht beendet. Wir sind ja heute in Minsk, jedem Ort, an dem das Minsker Abkommen verhandelt wurde. Doch leider hat es sich bisher nicht eine Situation ergeben, dass man von einem erhofften Durchbruch sprechen kann. Auch weil es an vielen Stellen an der Umsetzung immer wieder hapert und immer wieder auch bewusst torpediert wird. Aber die Ukraine-Krise ist beileibe nicht die einzige. In Bergkarabach zum Beispiel besteht die Gefahr, dass der Konflikt jederzeit mit massiven militärischen Mitteln ausgetragen werden kann. Und auch in manchen Regionen auf dem Balkan gibt es beunruhigende Entwicklungen. Dabei spreche ich Noch nicht einmal von den Menschenrechtssituationen, die auch in vielen OSZE-Staaten nicht zufriedenstellend sind. Meine Damen und Herren, die Parlamentarische Versammlung der OSZE ist ein Ort, wo wir als Parlamentarier alle gemeinsam debattieren und Kontroversen ansprechen. Wir bilden hier Vertrauen und nur Vertrauen kann auch die Grundlage für weitere Zusammenarbeit sein. Wofür benötigen wir Vertrauen und Kooperation im OSZE-Raum? Auch dies gibt das Motto der Debatte wieder, nämlich wir brauchen Vertrauen für Frieden und Wohlstand. Uns ist auch in der OSZE-Region bewusst, dass der Frieden uns nicht in den Schoß fällt. Er ist kein Geschenk, sondern ein Ergebnis bitterer Erfahrungen und ist auch ein Ergebnis der Ziehen von Konsequenzen aus diesen Erfahrungen. Niemand wusste das besser als der kürzlich verstorbene Bundeskanzler Helmut Kohl, den ich an dieser Stelle ausdrücklich für seine Verdienste würdigen möchte. Helmut Kohl hat nicht nur durch sein Handeln maßgeblich für die Wiedervereinigung Deutschlands gewirkt und die europäische Einigung vorangetrieben, sondern er hat sich auch ganz aktiv für die Kooperation mit Russland und weiteren Nachfolgestaaten der Sowjetunion eingesetzt. Er wollte Konfrontation durch Kooperation ersetzen und Sicherheit und Wohlstand auch im Umfeld Europas erreichen. Meine Damen und Herren, bei allen derzeitigen Schwierigkeiten dürfen wir nicht das Ziel vergessen, Vertrauen und Frieden und damit letztlich auch Wohlstand in der gemeinsamen OSZE-Region und darüber hinaus herzustellen. Lassen Sie uns dafür gemeinsam arbeiten. Wir als Parlamentarier können damit beginnen, dass wir das Verbindende suchen, gemeinsame Ziele finden, unsere nötigen nationalen Regierungen dazu anhalten, vertrauensbildende Maßnahmen und Kooperation zu stärken. Ganz konkret wünsche ich mir, dass wir den Austausch der Menschen von Schülern, Studenten, Lehrlingen, Vereinen, Schulen, Universitäten, Städten und Regionen viel stärker unterstützen. Wenn die Menschen miteinander sich kennenlernen, andere Kulturen und Sichtweisen verstehen, dann treten sie auch für Frieden und Versöhnung ein. Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you, and our common tribute to Mr. Helmut Kohl and Mrs. Simone Veil for what they have done for build our Europe. Next speaker is Mr. Mavrodis Voridis from Greece, and after I'll give the floor to Mr. Nikolai Rysak from Russian Federation.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, as we were convening, we had some very unfortunate and sad news, and that is that the conference on Cyprus could not arrive at a positive outcome. We are quite sad to hear that news. We really think that the conference was an excellent opportunity and occasion to arrive at a positive result which would end the occupation of a part of Cyprus, the northern part of Cyprus, and could arrive at the reunification of the island. At that point, it must be stressed that we will continue and we will intensify our efforts to arrive at a solution. But it is very important that the Turkish side will understand and will agree at what actually are the guidelines of the General Secretary of the United Nations for a solution that will not have the anachronistic institution of guarantees. This takes us back to the old imperialism, that will obviously not have Turkish troops in the island, and at the end of the day that it will allow the right, will not allow any right of intervention to Turkey in an independent country or anyone else to intervene. So we just hope that this will continue in the future, and obviously we will intensify our efforts for a solution of that issue. That were the bad news, but on the other hand, on major issues that were addressed here in our assembly, although the situation is deteriorating from the point of view of the security, and I am referring to the continuous challenge of migration, which is still a big challenge and needs to be addressed, and on the horrible threat of terrorism that our countries face. On these issues, I think that here in the Assembly we have made a very serious progress. Obviously, the migratory flows will continue, and this again is a challenge that has to be addressed, and the voices of innocent people that are killed through coward terrorist attacks really demand our attentions and our answer. Now, as far as the Parliamentary Assembly, I must congratulate Filippo Lombardi for the work being done at the ad hoc committee. And I must also say something else. We had a supplementary item, which is actually a very inclusive policy item that we, from different countries and from different parties and from different political groups, we managed to arrive at an agreement. Now there is one simple question. Why can't governments adopt such positions and policies on that issue? Why we can agree in a different, very differentiated parliamentary assembly, and why governments cannot agree? And I am referring to the governmental side of the OSCE, of our organization. And the second thing is, I must congratulate the Russian Federation, but also the Standing Committee, President Mudonen, General Secretary Montella, for the decision of an ad hoc committee on anti-terrorism, because again, this is a work that must be carried out, and the citizens wait for results, for policies that will guarantee their security without jeopardizing their human rights. Those are huge challenges ahead of us, but I must say that at that point, our Assembly has done tremendous work and really important steps. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mr. Nikolai Rizak from Russian Federation. Next speaker will be Mrs. Rosiana Gutchaka from Malta.
Большое спасибо, господин председатель, уважаемые коллеги. Я надеюсь, что выражу наши общие чувства, которые мы испытали, побывав в Большом театре Белоруссии. Я посмотрел, как истинно человеческие ценности всколыхнули чувства каждого из нас. В едином порыве мы долго аплодировали мастерам искусств. Это говорит о том, что в зале находились люди-единомышленники, у которых человеческий разум в состоянии оценить добро и зло, высокое и низкое, предательство и героизм и все другие высшие человеческие ценности. Я почему заговорил об этом сейчас? Потому что парламентская ассамблея – это та трибуна, на которую с надеждой смотрят все народы, которые в состоянии дать оценку всему происходящему, дать искренне, дать политически выверенно и грамотно. Давайте-ка порассуждаем. Вот мы говорим о проблемах терроризма, миграции, но мы не говорим и как-то стесняясь, замалчиваем, в чем истинные причины этих двух уродливых явлений 21 века. А причины известны. И истинные мастера, которые стоят за сценой, тоже известны, кто их породил. А мы сейчас с вами боимся называть, кто же все-таки виноват в том, что многие народы испытывают тяжелые испытания. Поэтому от нашей принципиальной позиции, от нашей искренности в политике зависит судьба народов, и мы должны понимать и чувствовать на себе эту ответственность. Вот сейчас мы наблюдаем за переговорами Путина и Трампа. А ведь вчера мы буквально с перевесом в 9 голосов провели поправку о недопустимости финансирования терроризма. А сейчас, когда эта тема возникла на полях саммита «двадцатки», как бы мы с вами выглядели, если бы мы вчера провалили эту резолюцию? Вы представляете, где бы наше было лицо? Поэтому я думаю, что парламентская ассамблея, она должна идти впереди событий, она должна предвосхищать, она должна прогнозировать развитие политических событий и не допускать вредных последствий. Я благодарен всем, что у нас сегодня сложилась хорошая, ответственная атмосфера при обсуждении различных вопросов, но я просил бы каждого из нас еще подумать о его личной роли в истории развития человечества и в том, чтобы всегда демонстрировали и побеждали высшие человеческие качества. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mrs. Rosiana Gutager from Malta, and next speaker it will be Mrs. Arta Dade from Albania.
Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the floor. Majed, Omar, Zadeh, and Sam. These are some of the unaccompanied children of Syria, victims of a bloody and devastating war that has dragged now for more than 7 years. Children who got killed or maimed for life, never to forget their physical, psychological trauma, recruited fighters displaced in their own country, refugees far away from their homes. These are some of the thousands of children who are being forced to live a life of brutal hardships, toxic stress and trauma, misery, unprecedented suffering and unbearable pain, forgotten and abandoned vulnerable human beings, victims of a war that is not theirs. Let us spare a thought for those children who are constrained to live in constant fear of being bombed from the sky or stepping on an exploded ordnance in the street while trying to live as normal life as possible, while doing what all children should be doing, playing and cheering. Children who can no longer go to school to get an education, who have no easy access to basic health care, food, water, clean clothing, childcare, and who have probably lost their parents for one reason or another, and as a consequence have no one to look after them and take care of their needs. Children who are constrained to live in the destroyed and besieged cities of Syria, or in squalid conditions in the refugee camps in neighboring countries or in Europe, after a risky and dangerous journey across the sea and land borders, where they think that the nightmare is over, but is a continuation of it. I am deeply concerned not only about the physical, psychological, and emotional well-being of these children and youths, but also about their future amongst our communities, where they have no meaningful opportunities to regain their life. Let us not forget that they have a human right to seek asylum, a safer place other than their war-torn Syria. If we not heed, we will risk increasing their suffering, with some individuals risking marginalization or worse, radicalization. It is only by offering good educational opportunities and real prospects of integration that we will be creating a fair and just society. Finally, allow me to commend the invaluable humanitarian assistance that regional and also international organizations and NGOs, most notably UNICEF, are carrying out. I am proud that my country, Malta, was always on the forefront when it comes to international interventions. Let us give the children of Syria, citizens of the world, what is theirs by right: a life of dignity, protection, love, and contentment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mrs. Arta Dade from Albania, and next speaker will be Mrs. Beatriz Marta Escudero from Spain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the first turn, I want to join with all the congratulations and thanks for our Belarusian colleagues. Dear colleagues, the challenges we are facing and the various consequences of the crisis affecting our common security, stability and peace are absolutely interconnected, therefore they cannot be tackled by an isolated approach. Terrorism and violent extremism cannot be combated individually without a common strategy, without close cooperation. Critical situations in a number of countries in the OSCE area and the armed conflicts in the neighborhood and the countries with frozen conflicts and hot tensions can be resolved, but with joint action. Economic, social and environmental serious issues also need to be addressed in a coordinated approach. Today, generating synergies and strengthening cooperation both domestically with our neighbors and within our region and OSCE area, but also at the same time with our European and international partners, becomes an imperative for all actors and above all politicians and parliamentarians. Joint efforts of the parliamentary institutions and involvement of the legislative institutions in solution of the challenges on the path of peaceful and democratic development of the countries is of utmost importance. The violent extremism and terrorism asks for comprehensive action response at the global level, regionally and domestically, in order to be defeated, not only by force, but also by eradicating its roots, by eliminating marginalization, exclusion, discrimination, working with civil society, involving women as mothers, teachers, etc., and by making governments deliver and resolve social and economic problems, that will be our utmost role. As an important actor in the Balkans, Albania has been and will continue to make its contribution as a serious partner. And having said that, I want to congratulate our President for having setting up this new structure, ad hoc committee on the struggle against terrorism, and we are ready to contribute to that. I'm not responding to some previous speakers, dear colleagues, who on purpose confuse cases of pure violation of international law by annexation of Crimea with other cases in our area of extreme genocide, issues won at international tribunals. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mrs. Beatriz Marta Escudero from Spain. And next speaker will be Mrs. Bahar Bunadova from Azerbaijan.
Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes. En primer lugar, quiero pedir disculpas en nombre de España por la utilización que ha hecho mi compañera de esta Asamblea y de esta institución, la OSCE, con un fin única y exclusivamente propagandístico. En España tenemos una Constitución, es de 1978. Fue apoyada por el 88% de los españoles. Todavía fue más apoyada por los españoles que residen en Cataluña, que la apoyaron con un 91%. Y en esa Constitución se recoge o se define a España como patria común e indivisible que reconoce, defiende y garantiza el derecho a la autonomía de las nacionalidades y las regiones. Por eso, Cataluña es una comunidad autónoma más con otras 16 que constituyen España. Uno de los peligros que hoy atraviesan todas las democracias europeas y las democracias de todo el mundo es el nacimiento, el resurgimiento de populismos y de nacionalismos que están deteriorando la calidad democrática de todos nuestros países, porque prometen a los ciudadanos cosas que luego no pueden cumplir, y esto genera frustración, desafección, desconfianza. Y esto es lo que está ocurriendo en mi país, en una comunidad autónoma en concreto, en Cataluña, en la que tres fuerzas políticas han tenido que unirse porque no tenían suficiente mayoría para poder gobernar. Mi compañera hablaba que hay 2 millones de votantes o de catalanes que apoyarían una independencia. Les recuerdo que el censo electoral en Cataluña es casi de 6 millones de catalanes. Solo 2 estarían a favor, que no es así tampoco. Pero, de todas formas, decirles que estas formaciones políticas que se han unido ante su incapacidad de gestión para solventar y resolver de manera eficaz los problemas de los catalanes, se han agarrado a la bandera del populismo, del nacionalismo, bandera que, por cierto, muchos de ellos, y ya miembros del gobierno catalán, están abandonando porque saben que este camino no les lleva hacia nada. Yo quiero que a ustedes les queden claras 4 cosas. En primer lugar, que en España no hay razones ni históricas, ni políticas, ni jurídicas, ni económicas que avalen ningún referéndum de independencia. Nadie puede saltarse la ley, no porque lo digamos nosotros, sino porque lo dice la ley. En segundo lugar, que nuestra Constitución permite que esto se pueda modificar. Y para ello, en contra de lo que decía mi colega española, el Gobierno de España ha invitado al Gobierno catalán a que acuda al Parlamento para que allí expliquen y razonen cuáles son los argumentos y se debatan, porque solo en la sede de la soberanía parlamentaria, solo en la sede del Parlamento, podrá apoyarse o no esta iniciativa. En tercer lugar, lo que es el presente y el futuro de España solo decidirán los españoles, no unos cuantos ciudadanos que viven en Cataluña. Y en cuarto lugar, mi compañera, ya termino, hablaba de lo que decía el defensor del pueblo catalán que ha sido designado por el Gobierno catalán. En contra de lo que decía este defensor del pueblo catalán, he de decirles que hoy mismo la Comisión Europea para la Democracia del Consejo de Europa, que representa a muchos más países que al Gobierno catalán, ha recordado a los independentistas catalanes y al presidente del Gobierno catalán que no puede hacerse ninguna votación, que no puede hacerse ningún referéndum en contra de la Constitución española. Y esto lo único que hace es avalar y apoyar al Gobierno y al Parlamento de España. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias. I give the floor to Mrs. Mahar Moradova from Azerbaijan. The next speaker will be Mr. Emanuel Scagliugi from Italy.
Уважаемые коллеги, поблагодарив наших белорусских коллег за радушный прием, я вновь хотела бы привлечь ваше внимание к последней эскалации на линии противостояния армяно-азербайджанских вооруженных сил, в результате чего убиты мирные граждане Азербайджана, в том числе 2-летняя девочка. Отрадно, что это происшествие, являющееся грубым нарушением международного права и прав человека, не осталось без внимания мировой общественности. Страны-сопредседатели Минской группы осудили это событие и расценили его как провокацию, направленную против переговорного процесса. Австрийское председательство ОБСЕ, Генсек ООН, Министерство иностранных дел разных стран, представители Европарламента, ПАСЕ, ряд парламентариев, общественные и религиозные деятели также осудили это и отметили необходимость того, чтобы такое никогда больше не повторялось. Пользуясь случаем, я хотела бы выразить благодарность всем тем, кто остался неравнодушным к подобному нарушению разделяемых всеми нами человеческих ценностей. Считаю, что наша парламентская ассамблея тоже должна выразить свою принципиальную позицию в этой связи. Это очень важно для того, чтобы избежать повторения подобного в будущем. На фоне реакции мировой общественности не может не вызвать сожаления отношения армянской стороны к этому происшествию. Заявление о том, что якобы в селе Алханлы находятся огневые точки азербайджанских вооруженных сил и что будто Азербайджан использует своих граждан в качестве мишени, являются абсурдными и указывают на опасную тенденцию. Эта аргументация известна нам еще со времен Ходжалинского геноцида. Для информации отмечу, что аккредитованные в Азербайджане зарубежные дипломаты и представители СМИ посетили подвергшееся обстрелу село Алханлы и сами стали свидетелями того, что в этом селе нет ни одной огневой точки азербайджанской армии. И то, что этот обстрел произошел в период, когда проводится реконструкция села Джоджух-Мерджанлы и возврат туда вынужденных переселенцев, говорит о том, что эта провокация была не случайной. Армения всячески старается предотвратить возвращение вынужденных переселенцев и преследует цель изгнать с родных мест живущие на линии фронта населения. В такое время все соответствующие структуры должны проявить ответственность и объединить свои усилия, направленные на продолжительное разрешение конфликта, с тем, чтобы остановить возможные провокации, ведущие к нежелательному развитию и без того сложную ситуацию в регионе, и вплотную заниматься с решением самой проблемы, а не только отдельными его элементами. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Emanuele Scagliuzzi, and it will be the last speaker for today.
Grazie Presidente. Nel corso del dibattito parlamentare svoltosi in questi giorni, l'Assemblea dell'OSCE ha espresso vicinanza e sostegno all'Italia e ai paesi che stanno affrontando in prima linea i problemi legati all'accoglienza, approvando 2 risoluzioni presentate dal collega Lombardi e dal collega Lannery. Tali risoluzioni richiamano l'Assemblea dell'OSCE e i governi dell'area OSCE a sostenere la cooperazione e a condividere le migliori prassi con l'obiettivo di sviluppare un approccio coerente alla governance delle migrazioni, basato sui principi di condivisione delle responsabilità. Peccato però, signor Presidente, che ci giungono invece notizie contrastanti dal vertice ministeriale svoltosi a Tallinn, dove il ministro degli interni italiano ha ricevuto un secco no sulla ricollocazione dei migranti e sulla possibilità di aprire i porti proprio dalla maggioranza dei governi dei paesi dell'Unione Europea. L'ennesima occasione mancata quindi per l'Europa di assumersi le proprie responsabilità e per l'Italia di farsi ascoltare su questioni strategiche. Oggi, dopo il vertice di Tallinn, le frontiere dell'Italia sono affondate sulle coste di Sirte e i confini di Schengen si sono dissolti nel Sahel, sotto la responsabilità di quei paesi europei che nel 2011 decisero che Gheddafi dovesse essere eliminato con la forza senza un conseguente impegno nella ricostruzione dello stesso paese. Gli alleati che avviarono l'invasione della Libia a discapito degli accordi internazionali e sulla base di convenienze economiche oggi esprimono solidarietà all'Italia, ma vi sembra credibile tutto questo? Secondo il dato recentemente reso noto dall'Alto Commissariato delle Nazioni Unite per i rifugiati, UNHCR, 440.000 sfollati siriani hanno fatto ritorno a casa non appena il loro paese ha raggiunto un minimo di stabilità. Ciò indica che il problema migratorio può avere una soluzione di lungo periodo solo con un cambio di rotta globale della politica estera dell'Unione Europea e dei paesi occidentali. Per farlo occorre recuperare la stabilità di paesi quali Libia, Siria e Yemen e nel frattempo condividere realmente gli oneri legati all'accoglienza, assumendosi ciascuno la propria responsabilità, anche attuando con coerenza le risoluzioni che sono state qui approvate all'Assemblea dell'OSCE. Altrimenti tali risoluzioni restano carta morta e il problema delle migrazioni continua a persistere. Grazie Presidente.
Thank you. This concludes our session for today. We resume tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I underline 9 o'clock, to continue our open general debate. Thank you. Thank you.